Chapter 361. Let me go down. Angelina's tears flowed. Everyone looked at each other and laughed. She had a complicated view of Tang Tian. He was mysterious and strong, cold and unfeeling with a heart of stone. Women had no effect on him and he was extremely intelligent. He was a man of few words, but as long as he opened his mouth, it would always hit the spot. Up till now her and Uncle Noel's reactions were all within his rhythm, including the infiltration into the fairy palace. Angelina's face immediately flushed red in front of so many people. To be called a burden, she felt that she was about to explode. If not for the fact that Tang Tian's cold-bloodedness was too strong in her heart, she would have retorted. "Master, Miss Mingyu is waiting for you in the hall." That's right. Zhou Xian took big strides and took over the topic. Northern Sky's 19 continents Andromeda constellation has the longest history. They have already been active since ancient times. Up till now they have risen and fallen, hailed as an evergreen tree, but they have never achieved hegemony. Such a pity. No. We cannot let Uncle Noel sacrifice himself for nothing. Angelina's voice was filled with disappointment. She wanted to get down from Tang Tian, but her body was unable to move. Outside the fairy palace, the two of them hid under the shadows of the eaves, where the guards could not see. Tang Tian carried Angelina, quietly circling around the fairy palace, and finally found the perfect hiding spot. Seems like unknowingly he had lost a point in front of Mingyu. Zhou Xian laughed at himself. Angelina felt that he would not be moved by anything. But when she saw that he was actually staring at the sunset as though he was moved, Angelina thought that she was seeing things. Tang Tian did not speak anymore. Noel's expression became serious. Zhou Xian's banquet will start at 9 p.m. and we will attack at 9 p.m. sharp. You all must not waste time. Noel turned and faced the rest. Let's cut the bullshit, brothers. We will meet again after death. 9 p.m. sharp. Scope. Creating a diversion. A cold voice came out from behind the black flame mask. He was a person who caused people to fear, and if possible Angelina did not want to meet him. Regardless of who it was, to have such a terrifying enemy, they would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. The space under the eaves was just right to hide one person, but now there was another person. Tang Tian had no choice but to let Angelina stick to him. Time slowly passed. The restaurant became more and more bustling, but Tang Tian was like an old monk, not moving an inch. Angelina also felt impressed. For him to maintain the same posture for such a long time, and with a person hanging on him, he was actually able to do it without moving. To Angelina and the others, he could not move. If Asda was Asda, it would be. And Asda would be saved. If Asda was still alive, then it was very likely that she was imprisoned. If that was the case, then everything would be fine as long as they could save Asda. If she was, then it would be, Tang would be B. Would be. We will sneak in from the east gate of the fairy palace. That is the most suitable place to break through. All grinned. Of course, that place is definitely a trap. They seemed to have gathered all the elite forces that Fairy City could use. All of them had light in their eyes, and their bodies were filled with ferocious chi. Her mind was blank for a long time, and Angelina finally regained her composure. The evening sun shone on her body, but it did not have much heat and instead had the smell of sunset. The second day had passed. Time was so short. Tang Tian suddenly stopped, and quietly looked at the red sun that was about to set. It was still silence. There are not many men like Brother Qi in this world. Mingyu changed the topic. But yesterday I met a very interesting person. Brother Qi, you have to be careful. Tang Tian ignored her. Angelina did not expect such a scene. She was hugged tightly by Tang Tian and was extremely flustered. The last time Tang Tian had seen through her, she had suppressed it. But now she was hugged tightly and the warmth of his body made her mind go blank. Wait. The reply was still cold. Wait. Tang Tian coldly spat out a word without any intention to explain. Tang Tian was like a block of wood, not moving an inch. So to find out if the master had been killed or not, was the most pressing matter for them. Only when the sun had completely disappeared did Tang Tian retract his gaze. Angelina panicked. Uncle Noel and the rest have moved. How can we still wait here? This is an opportunity that Uncle Noel and the rest have exchanged with their lives. Andromeda constellation that was originally thought to be easy, had suddenly become interesting. Ah, that's true. What's wrong with being stable? Leave the battles to the men. Zhou Xian laughed. Angelina pushed the door open. The room was dark and she turned on the lights. In the corner of the shadows, a figure quietly sat cross-legged. She looked deeply at Tang Tian and said, "Tonight Zhou Xian is hosting a banquet for a lady on the fairy lake, and the experts by his side are all on the boat. If we want to enter the fairy palace, this is our best chance." When his subordinates left the room, Zhou Xian's gaze suddenly became cold. Mingyu waved her sword at the carriage. That meant that she had sensed someone hiding in the carriage. Walking out of the room, the sky outside was already evening. But his gaze did not thaw. The other party had snuck into the carriage that he was in, and immediately thought of the mysterious man that saved Angelina. Even Mingyu was not able to force the other party out. He was truly powerful. The subordinate's dejection was greatly reduced. He was secretly moved. Without saying anything, he responded and left. Noel raised his thumb. "It's so easy to talk to intelligent people. Angelina will bring you to another path and we will do our best to attract their attention." Brother Chiu is ambitious. Mingyu turned her head and said quietly, "But most women prefer stability." He was truly powerful. Zhou Xian would definitely hold the advantage. His cards were too good. He had the second in line Kai Lin, the imperial bodyguard Captain Ba Fu, and Angelina suspected that the great clan elder had already sided with Zhou Xian. As long as the first in line Sha Fu was in trouble, they would be in the majority. Angelina suspected that Sha Fu had already been killed, as Sha Fu had not appeared for almost 2 weeks. "I'm coming." "Hey!" Angelina shouted in dissatisfaction. After knowing that Tang Tian was not old, she realized that she had become more daring. Zhou Xian laughed out loud. "Thank you for Sister Ming's concern. To be able to be called interesting by Sister Ming, he must not be ordinary. If there's a chance, I want to meet him. The Fairy Lake's best viewing period is only 24 days. Our luck is good and we are just in time. If we miss it, it would be a pity. I have arranged a banquet on the lake for Sister Ming, to drink and admire the lake. Isn't that great?" Mingyu nodded her head and thanked him. "Brother Chiu has worked hard. I will listen to Brother Chiu's arrangements." Darkness came. It was a 16-story restaurant. It was brightly lit, filled with voices. It was extremely bustling. There was a distance between the restaurant and the fairy palace, but it was able to observe the fairy palace. Tang Tian and Angelina hid under the eaves of the restaurant. The lights above were as bright as day, causing the eaves to become even darker. It was just that the space inside was very narrow, and Tang Tian had no choice but to hug Angelina, completely hiding in the shadows. When the time neared 9, Angelina saw that Tang Tian did not have any intention of moving, and could not help but urge, "We need to move." Tang Tian did not care about her in the darkness. His eyes were as bright as a snake coiling its body in the darkness, waiting to strike the cold and emotionless snake pupils. She felt as though she was wrapped around a wooden stake. Angelina knew that he was not someone who would take advantage of her, adding the last time, it was already the second time. She boldly asked, "Hey, why are we here?" "Wait." The cold voice did not have any warmth. Inside the hall, a snow-white figure stood gracefully. She was studying the paintings on the wall, her black hair draped over her shoulders. She was as beautiful as a painting. Hearing Zhou Xian's footsteps, Mingyu did not even turn her head and said softly, "Although Andromeda constellation is not considered a big constellation, but it has a long history, generation after generation of people managing Andromeda constellation to such a scale, it is considered commendable. This cold-blooded person still has warmth." In the blink of an eye, the cold intent on his face disappeared, and he once again became his usual sunny self-confidence. He pushed open the door and walked out. "I don't want to bring a burden, give me the map." Noel laughed and a few people behind him also chuckled. Noel laughed and waved his hands. "Partner, don't be like that. Other than Angelina, no one else can enter. The power of the Saint treasure envelopes the entire fairy palace. Our little princess is the successor. With her, you cannot alert the enemy and quietly pass through." Tang Tian's reply was simple and cold. "There are no signs of fighting. The carriage was split into 2. It should be caused by a blade or sword. There is a very faint true power undulation on the broken part. This subordinate is unable to decipher it." He once again took a step forward. A blush crept up Angelina's neck. Under his cold pupils, his lips were curved as though he was smiling, but there was no warmth. The first thought that popped up in her mind made Angelina feel that she did not know whether to laugh or cry. Angelina, who had calmed down, quickly regained her sharp observation skills. The opponent was very young. It was as though he was born for the darkness and forever allowed himself to be in the darkness. Zhou Xian listened to his subordinate's report and laughed without a care. Miss Mingyu's sword technique is unparalleled. It is normal for you to not be able to decipher it, so don't be discouraged. It has been hard on you these few days. Go to Old Hu and collect the 5 million star coins and have a good rest. Fairy City is filled with beauties. Yanji Alley is one of a kind. Ha, go go go. Tang Tian disappeared and immediately appeared behind Angelina. Not allowing her to object, he lifted her up and disappeared. What are we waiting for? Angelina did not understand, but she knew that the opponent's wisdom and experience were far above hers. Angelina also stopped and looked at Tang Tian with a look of surprise. Chapter 362. Zhou Ning, who was beside Zhou Xian, was enraged. Who didn't shut their mouth properly? Mingyu took a sip, her eyes revealing a thoughtful look. Asta is dead. That's right, fourth elder is right. The surface of Fairy Lake was wide and it was late autumn. The blue light algae's brilliant but short-lived life had blossomed completely in these 25 days. The surface of the lake stretched as far as the eye could see. Specks of blue light scattered in every corner of Fairy Lake. It was a spectacular sight. With such a short period of time, unless the other party was prepared. Although no one knew where Mingyu came from, but Zhou Xian's fawning over her naturally could not be hidden from their eyes. In their hearts, Zhou Xian's identity was extremely noble, and he was willing to lower himself to curry favor with Miss Mingyu, so Miss Mingyu's identity was definitely not one that they could provoke. He stood up and said, "This matter is over. I wish to leave. Would Sister Ming be willing to accompany me?" When everyone heard this, their hearts were already clear. His lord must have rejected the honorable martial alliance. General Ta Dun must have played an important role in this. Although General Ta Dun was not as powerful as the great clan elder in Andromeda Constellation, he was still one of the most powerful people in Andromeda Constellation. How could he let his daughter suffer? On the other hand, the neutral faction was overjoyed. The boat glided silently. The blue ball of light floated along with the ripples of the water. The blue ripples were like a pair of scissors cutting the surface of the lake. "What is it?" Great Elder asked in a deep voice. No one found it strange that Zhou Xian was going to Andromeda Constellation. The prelude to the conflict between the Honorable Martial Alliance and the Leo Constellation had already begun. The few large armies of the Leo Constellation had already started to move out frequently, and the situation between the two parties was on the verge of exploding. The banquet was extraordinarily lively. The Great Elder was furious. How dare you? They must be tired of living. How dare he barge into the palace? Are all your men useless? The Great Elder smiled. Such a beautiful scene, talking about such things will spoil the mood. Let's just talk about the wind and moon. We only talk about love. No one cared about Zhou Xian, everyone flew up and in the blink of an eye, only Zhou Xian and the other two were left on the boat. How could this be? Zhou Xian spoke frankly with assurance, obviously putting in some effort. Suddenly, a guard rushed in with a flustered expression. The Great Elder frowned. "Speak." Looking down from the sky, Fairy Lake was like the night sky full of stars. Recently, all kinds of rumors had been running rampant in the city, and it was impossible to distinguish the truth from the lies. Zhou Xian's face was filled with regret. "Then we can only part here. Sister Ming has a sword in her hand and has nowhere to go. I have some trifling matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first." Although his tone was regretful, there was no hesitation on his face. After bidding farewell, he soared into the sky with Zhou Ning. The other people all stood up and raised their wine cups. No matter what, Zhou Xian's identity could not be neglected. By God! It was Noel. Noel from the Plateau Army. Zhou Xian raised his wine cup and said clearly, "This time coming to Andromeda Constellation, I have benefited a lot. Andromeda Constellation is one of the most important constellations in the northern sky's 19 continents. And I have always thought that with Andromeda Constellation's position and power, it should be of greater use in the northern sky's 19 continents, and even in the entire Heavens Road. We, the Honorable Martial Alliance, have always been committed to the peace and development of Heavens Road, and on this point we have the same starting point as Andromeda Constellation. I can understand Her Majesty Asda's concerns. There is still a lot of time in the future, and I believe that everyone will have the opportunity to work together again. Since the start, I have been indebted to everyone's hospitality, and I will borrow the great clan elder's light to toast everyone. Zhou Ning was enraged, but Xiu Shan stopped him. He stood up and said, "The innocent will be innocent, the guilty will be guilty. Great clan elder, please clear this one's name." All the families that were waiting to curry favor with the Honorable Martial Alliance looked at each other, their faces filled with bewilderment. Did the master change his mind? The conflict between the two absolute overlords, once it started, would definitely be a war that affected the entire Heaven's Road. In such a war, no constellation would be able to escape. Everyone's expressions. Xiu Shan's face did not change. "I will drink first as a sign of respect." "So beautiful." Ming Yu's soft voice floated in the night wind. At the moment, the Honorable Martial Alliance wanted to use diplomatic methods to rope in allies, and that was normal. Not only Andromeda constellation, the other constellations also sent envoys from the Honorable Martial Alliance. Xiu Shan slowly poured a cup of wine and sipped it. Xiu Shan said straightforwardly, "If I did not meet Sister Ming, I am afraid I would have missed out on such a beautiful scenery. I need to thank Sister Ming." Ming Yu unexpectedly shook her head. "It is not too late for me to leave after enjoying the 24 days of Fairy Lake." Truly a powerful person. Everyone immediately replied, "That's right, that's right." Many people glared at Xiu Shan. Ming Yu, who was sitting at the side, quietly watched Xiu Shan. Xiu Shan's face did not have any sense of defeat. His eyes were as bright as a hunter's. "Snatch the saint treasure," Tang Tian said coldly, then carried Angelina like an arrow leaving the bow. He rushed towards the majestic palace. For example, the rumor that the master had bestowed Angelina to Xiu Shan's right-hand man Zhou Ning made people feel puzzled, but felt that it was not groundless. And the rumor that the master did not like the Honorable Martial Alliance also spread far and wide. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them, their faces revealing expressions of disbelief. They had never thought that the enemies who barged into the palace were actually General Ta Dun's men. He raised his wine cup and downed it in one gulp. In the shadows outside the palace, Angelina looked at the incoming group of people in shock. The person leading them was actually the great clan elder. Everyone was in an uproar. It was only 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. The other party was not afraid. "If you do not do anything shameful, you will not be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. Great clan elder, there are so many people here today, why not let everyone see for themselves, who has the guts to dare to barge into my fairy palace?" The inside of the boat was extremely spacious and had long prepared a banquet. Hearing that, everyone took their seats. Xiu Shan was a distinguished guest representing the Honorable Martial Alliance, and naturally could not be neglected, and the great clan elder's position in Fairy City was also revered. For him to be the one to receive them, it was proper etiquette and no one found it strange. Furthermore, in the past few days, everyone had heard that Xiu Shan had frequently entered the palace to discuss with the master, and both parties seemed to have a lot of arguments. Seeing that, the great clan elder clenched his teeth. "Ba Fu, open your fairy mirror." And to the tyrants of Andromeda constellation, an unavoidable war meant that they had to choose a side. The Honorable Martial Alliance was currently the #1 powerhouse, and had dominated Heaven's Road for many years, compared to Leo constellation. Of course, there were many who objected, thinking that the war had not even started, and to prematurely decide on their own side was extremely unwise. The great clan elder's face changed. "Not good. Ta Dun wants to betray us. Everyone enter the palace to support the master." The guard could only bite the bullet. "Someone is barging into the palace." Xiu Shan laughed out loud. "Angelina is innocent no matter, as long as General Ta Dun does not have any misunderstandings." Everyone started to cheer and stood up to toast Xiu Shan. Xiu Shan did not reject anyone and the cups were emptied. "Brother Xiu has worked hard." Ming Yu nodded her head and thanked him. When everyone sat down again, the great clan elder then explained, "Mr. Qiu, please do not blame her, the master has many misgivings. Angelina, that little lass, I do not know where she heard the rumors, but she actually thought that the master wanted to marry her to Mr. Zhou, and caused a few misunderstandings and let Mr. Qiu see a joke." At this time the great clan elder laughed. "Everyone take your seats, don't let the food get cold." The guards and the ambushers were fighting, the situation was extremely intense. The floor was littered with corpses, some of them were enemies, some of them were guards. Everyone stopped what they were doing at the same time. The banquet that had just been bustling with noise and excitement suddenly became deathly silent. Mingyu stood at the bow of the boat, the night breeze caressing her face. She squinted her eyes, feeling extremely comfortable. Zhou Xian saw that she liked it and did not say anything, stood at the side and gazed into the distance. Tang Tian's voice was still cold, but it made Angelina feel as though she was grasping onto a life-saving straw. Her face was already pale. "We have fallen into a trap. What do we do? Is Ta done crazy?" The small mirror shot out a ray of light and an intense battle appeared in front of everyone. Finished, he downed the wine. Zhou Xian's mouth blossomed into a smile. He raised the wine cup in his hand and gestured to Mingyu. "Sister Ming, please." Hearing that, Ba Fu did not speak any nonsense and immediately took out a small mirror. This fairy mirror was a silver star treasure of Andromeda constellation, and was able to communicate with the fairy hoop in the fairy palace, and see the majority of the images in the palace. The master had not expressed his position, and that was the reason why the rumors were spreading. Just then someone in the crowd said coldly, "General Ba Fu, don't you have the fairy mirror? Why not open it and see who did it?" Some people saw that the master had seen through their plot and are trying to fish in troubled waters, and want to harm our Andromeda constellation. The guard looked around and revealed a look of hesitation. Zhou Xian had long heard of the 24 days of beautiful scenery of the fairy lake, but it was the first time seeing it and was equally shocked. He slowly exhaled, regained his senses and said softly, "This is just the beginning. In the 24 days the blue light algae will experience germination, maturation and decline. The mature blue light algae will occupy the entire lake, and the fairy lake will become a lake that emits blue light. And in the last few days the blue light algae will have formed fruits and the blue light will disappear. And at that time the fruits will explode, releasing an astonishing number of seeds. These seeds are as fine as dust, releasing a dense blue light, and will be sprayed 10 m into the air by the blue light algae. At that time the fairy lake will be a spectacular sight." Standing at the bow of the boat, Mingyu watched the tranquil surface of the lake converge with the stars in the sky, and an indescribable emotion rose in her heart. Mingyu smiled, turned and bowed to the rest of the people on the boat. "I've made everyone wait." Mingyu clapped her hands and praised, "Brother Chiu can turn your hands into clouds, turn your hands into rain. I admire you." The fairy palace was not extravagant in the previous generations of constellation masters, but because Andromeda constellation did not experience the flames of war, the previous generations of constellation masters slowly expanded, and the current scale was rather astonishing, forming a palace complex. Compared to Leo constellation, the new overlord that was born from war, the honorable martial alliance's methods were much more experienced. The one who stood out was the fourth clan elder. He was a just person and did not fear power and had a great reputation. Mingyu's eyes flashed a look of admiration. Ba Fu immediately ran over. "Great clan elder, all the guards are on duty, this subordinate will rush over." Chapter 363. Her clothes were once again cut into two from her back, and her body was once again exposed to the air. Quick. Her face was still pale white, but the stubbornness and determination in her eyes was slowly stirred up. As for the palace, they could only close one eye to the situation. All the young ladies had respectable positions, and if they were to be overly involved and offend them, who knew when they would be plotted against? Enter the palace. Tang Tian did not have the intention to discuss with Angelina and directly ordered. Angelina was familiar with the place and very quickly came to a half-sealed corner. She touched a brick on the wall for a moment. Click, click, click. A small door appeared in front of the two of them. Upon entering the master's palace, the thick and pungent smell of blood immediately entered their noses. Angelina covered her mouth, her face filled with shock, her tears flowed down uncontrollably. The palace was filled with blood, and in the pool of blood were corpses. It was a terrible sight to behold. The matter of the female servants made Tang Tian extremely satisfied with his gains. Moreover, the location was perfect for burying a nail. The ice-cold slender sword tip was pressed against Angelina's throat, the blade slowly lifting up her flawless chin. Tang Tian's figure flashed and appeared in front of the fairy hoop. Angelina's face was pale white, she was dazed, it was an ambush. Zhou Xian had long set up an ambush for them, the swordsman could see through it, but he did not warn her. Angelina's mind was in a mess. She saw the imprint, and immediately felt a sense of humiliation. In her family she was the pearl in the palm and was protected, and in the fairy palace she was the third-in-line successor and had a respected position. She even started to think, why did Tang Tian not warn her? Or did he also wish for her father to become a rebel? Which powerhouse did he represent? Regardless of his intelligence, he was extremely scary. Only in a desperate situation could she be truly clear-headed. Angelina never thought that the sentence she was waiting for would be that, causing her to be dumbstruck. Angelina did not make a sound and only extended out her arm, pointing in a direction. That's right, the master was most likely killed, and if it was a trap, Zhou Xian would definitely blame the master's death on her father. She no longer had any thoughts of wishful thinking. The cruelty of the truth was beyond her imagination. Only now did she realize that the tactics she thought she was proficient in were really laughable. Angelina revealed a look of hesitation. She would not be repelled by the power of the fairy hoop, but the mysterious man would. The fairy hoop was shrouded in a layer of faint purple mist, the mist of Roland. He grabbed Angelina's wrist and extended it towards the fairy hoop in the purple mist. This bastard actually left a mark on my body. I need a maid. From the hurried footsteps of the guards, it could be seen that the battle on Noelle's side was not over yet. Angelina turned around in a daze, her mind blank. She was alone, and the things that had happened in the past few days had left her in a constant state of panic. Tang Tian's strength and wisdom gave her a sense of security. However, she also knew that this mysterious man was not a good person. However, this was the best time to get his hands on the fairy hoop. The power enveloping the fairy palace had yet to disappear, which meant that the fairy hoop was still there. And now they were still entangled with Noelle. As long as they arrived before them, their chances of success were very high. Of course, the fairy hoop's power enveloped the entire palace, so there were no blind spots. Father and his plateau army would be branded as traitors. The third successor of Andromeda constellation to be my maid? Oh, that's not a bad idea. Tang Tian muttered. The idea was just a spur-of-the-moment idea, but after thinking about it he felt that it was necessary. His mind was moving quickly. Angelina's identity as the successor, if handled properly, should be able to display a good effect. As for Ta Dun's army, Tang Tian had already thought of a way out for them. Orion constellation had a large number of fringe areas, and it was more than enough to support an army. Asta is dead. Tang Tian did not hesitate. He picked up Angelina and placed her on his back, and wrapped Angelina's legs around his waist. The black flames on his body disappeared, and the black flames on his face also disappeared, leaving behind a thin layer of black membrane. Turn around. Tang Tian ordered coldly. I truly need such a maid. But to Angelina, who had obtained the recognition of the fairy hoop, the power of the fairy hoop would not repel her. All the hidden passageways would often become the secret for them to sneak out and play. And everyone's secret passageway was different. Unless it was a good friend, no one would ever share it. Tang Tian could not help but admire Zhou Xian, to actually be able to use such an ingenious method to control the Saint Treasure. The mist of Roland was the blood of the 100 transformation caterpillar. It could transform into all sorts of disguises. Zhou Xian's brilliance was that he did not use the mist of Roland to imitate Asta's appearance, but her aura. The cold reply, with a tinge of ridicule, was like a sharp arrow that smashed Angelina's heart into pieces. The cold sword tip left a black cross imprint on her left but near her waist. Angelina was still immature, but Tang Tian felt that she could be groomed. From today onwards, Angelina is no longer a little girl. Behind the mask, Tang Tian's eyes flashed a look of admiration. Personally witnessing the transformation of a young lady, seems like my eyesight is not bad. But to this extent is far from enough. But what was unexpected was that no one was guarding such an important place. Tang Tian did not plan to speak and only quietly watched her. His heart was as cold as ice, without any change in expression. It was originally a part of his plan. If Angelina and the rest had many ways to retreat, why would she cooperate with him? What do I need to pay? Angelina said coldly. Such an unfathomable method even made Tang Tian secretly admire her. Seems like Zhou Xian definitely has a powerful blood meridian specialist under him. She lost control of her state of mind and tears flowed down. She forced herself to calm down. You spent so much effort just to do a good deed? Unless Tang Tian's gaze did not stop on the corpse. Upon entering, his gaze landed on the fairy hoop beside the throne. After Angelina's tears flowed out, her mood was not as bad. She did not make a sound and ran towards a corner of the outer wall of the fairy palace. The fairy palace had been expanded for generations, and the previous structures were not torn down, so there were many blind spots. Catch it! The speed of the scenery around her was so fast that she could not catch it with her naked eyes. She had no choice but to focus, to ensure that she was not heading in the wrong direction. What made her even more shocked was that he seemed to be able to predict danger, and avoided the guards of the palace many times. The power of the void dark flames would cause an intense reaction from the fairy hoop, and in a place like the fairy palace, where the power of Andromeda constellation was the most concentrated, other powers would be repelled and suppressed. Tang Tian was not afraid of its suppression, but if the reaction was too big, it would attract the enemy over. The third crucial point was more important than the other two combined. Orion constellation was one of the 10 equatorial palace halls, and other than a few extremely remote constellations, the majority of the 10 equatorial palace halls would not be able to escape from the war in Heaven's Road. With the strength of the 12 ecliptic palaces for a long time, the equatorial palace hall constellations would most likely be the main battlefield of the war. The mist of Roland that imitated Asda's aura had successfully deceived the fairy hoop. He had slept for a long time and was awake for a short period of time, and he did not want to affect the other him. Because of that, what he could do was rather limited. And if he had an outstanding female servant, he only needed to prepare a plan in advance, and when he was asleep he would hand over the responsibility to the female servant. That way he could ensure that the plan would not be interrupted while he was asleep. Very quickly, Angelina's face revealed a shocked expression. It was the first time she experienced Tang Tian's true speed. As for loyalty, the imprint just now was not just for show. As for Angelina's thoughts, he did not care and did not need to care. Not a single servant of the master could escape. Tang Tian bent over, carrying Angelina on his back. He slipped in through the small door. Angelina's face immediately turned pale white. In that moment she felt as though she was stripped clean. All her pride and self-respect was completely shattered, and she was so desperate that she almost collapsed. But she did not collapse. She knew, regardless of whether it was her or her father, their current situation was already at the edge of a cliff. If they were not careful, they would be smashed into pieces and be consigned to eternal damnation. What else do you have? If Angelina's identity as the third successor was the first crucial point, then Ta Dun's plateau army was the second, and the Saint Treasure Fairy Hoop was the third. Shua. And when these three crucial points were combined, it was enough to change Andromeda constellation's appearance. Even if Ta Dun was framed as a traitor, even if he was the real traitor, it was enough for them to enter the fairy palace. Although she knew that the other party did not have any obligations, but her heart was still cold. She was still too naive. At that time maybe this nail could be of some use. Wear it. Tang Tian threw a shirt to her. She was so shocked that she almost screamed and subconsciously extended her hand to touch it. It was still as smooth as before, without any scars. That was extremely fast. She pursed her lips and thought about some things. If it was Zhou Xian's plan, then he would definitely place the blame on her father. She thought about what the mysterious man had said. Under Angelina's guidance, the two of them quickly arrived at Asda's sleeping quarters. Angelina subconsciously grabbed onto the fairy hoop. Angelina immediately saw Asda and Lan Di. Lan Di was the first successor, and was the most doted on by Asda, and usually followed by the master's side. Lan Di's temperament was exactly the same as the master, extremely warm and kind, and had an extremely good relationship with Angelina. Just as Angelina was surprised, Tang Tian did not hesitate, and directly barged into the sleeping quarters. "Who are you?" Angelina's voice was cold. Tang Tian did not care about Angelina's thoughts. The servant's thoughts made him recall many things. In many aristocratic families, the young master's female servants would usually hold many positions. They had outstanding talent, and could help the young master handle all sorts of matters. Chapter 364. ZZZ. The gold light was like a flame burning the black cross imprint on Angelina's buttocks, but the black cross imprint was not damaged at all. "Everyone use your star treasures. I don't believe we can't break it open." Tang Tian's emotionless voice was cold and murderous. His rapier was raised. The dense black aura at the tip of the sword released a terrifying destructive aura. Bang bang bang. The dense and solid gold light converged in front of Angelina. 5 silver star treasures, one of them was the control center. Which one was it? With such a huge commotion, the entire Andromeda constellation knew that they were snatching the saint treasure. Tang Tian placed Angelina down. He took a deep breath. The most dangerous moment had arrived. Did I miss something? Her mind was in a daze. Suddenly she felt an incomparable fear. A power that even the fairy hoop feared. What was it? An astonishing explosion lit up above the two of them. The terrifying energy undulation caused them to suffocate. Tang Tian groaned. It was as though he had suffered a heavy punch. The terrifying shockwave directly smashed the two of them into the underground river. The heart-palpitating sound of the wall cracking came out. Angelina opened her eyes. Her golden pupils were cold and dazzling. Her entire body was releasing a gold light, her golden hair fluttering, her expression cold like a goddess of war. Tang Tian was not anxious. The Constellation Master's palace was definitely a tortoise shell. But he could still sense that among the people there were a few powerful people. After thinking for a while, Tang Tian understood at such a crucial moment who would dare to hide. While Tang Tian was thinking, bang, the door shook. Angelina could feel the sorrow of the fairy hoop. It could no longer feel Asda's chi. Not knowing why, the soft cord in her heart was plucked and tears flowed uncontrollably. Offending the superior? Was he talking about her? Or the fairy hoop? Kakaka. The door of the palace closed with a loud bang. The ground shook, the glass in the palace all shattered, the candlesticks all fell from the table. Cracks finally appeared in the palace. The silver umbrella and the ring shattered at the same time, but Tang Tian remained indifferent. His gaze was locked onto Angelina. The golden light released by the fairy hoop had already stabilized. Mechanisms were something that only the rich could play with, and generally speaking, as long as you had money, you could always buy a good mechanism. Andromeda Constellation's businesses were flourishing. How could Asda lack money? The door was very thick. Tang Tian tried to push it with brute force, but it didn't budge at all. Fortunately, there was a mechanism here. He found it after a while and closed the door. She had come into contact with the fairy hoop once, when she was chosen as the successor. The most important requirement to become a successor was not how outstanding one's talent was, but rather not being rejected by the fairy hoop. At that time she had only touched the fairy hoop for a short while. From then on she had never touched the fairy hoop again. No one escaped from the fairy palace. The fairy hoop that Angelina had just grabbed onto suddenly released a burst of light aura, as though it had awoken from a deep slumber. The fairy hoop's entire body was golden in color, as if it was weaved from thin golden vines. The 13 leaves were tightly attached to the body of the hoop. It was as though she was struck by an iron wall. Her throat tasted sweet and she spat out a mouthful of blood. In the moment of danger, she relaxed her body, following the force like a withered leaf. She was pushed 20 li away by the shockwave and landed on a small hill. There was actually nothing at the bottom of the tunnel. Very quickly, Tang Tian found the mechanisms. The layout of such a palace was usually more or less the same. Angelina was being acknowledged by the fairy hoop. The other people all took out their star treasures, only to see countless light auras attacking the palace like a torrential storm. Don't let go. The big door shattered. But it was too late. If Angelina was awake, she would have recognized that it was the great clan elder's voice. The usually amiable great clan elder was currently flustered and exasperated. A dense golden halo of light was released from the fairy hoop in Angelina's hand. Like a dazzling golden light, it swept across the entire fairy palace. Because what awaited him was a huge battle. I should be able to hold on for 10 minutes. It was the first time Tang Tian was surprised. The power of the explosion was much stronger than what he had expected. 6 silver star treasures were scattered all around the palace for a 200 m radius. And inside the palace, 5 star treasures lit up: a painting, a sword, a ring, an umbrella, and a wooden chest. Following that, he appeared like a ghost under the painting. Unknowingly, there was an entrance to the underground tunnel. Tang Tian did not even look. He flipped his slender rapier. A black sword aura struck the sword floating in the air. In her heart, the fairy hoop's position was high and unattainable. It was the strongest star treasure in the world. The power of martial artists in front of it was extremely weak. Its power was enough to change the entire Andromeda constellation. The cold voice caused Angelina to wake up. She grabbed onto the fairy hoop tightly, not daring to let go. She was panicking. Oh God, there was actually a day where I had to snatch saint treasures. She stared blankly at Tang Tian, forgetting that the clothes on her body had already been burnt to ashes. He was curious. He had just detonated all the star treasures in the palace. The power would definitely be strong, but it was definitely not to such an extent. But it actually retreated. Her face was filled with shock. The golden light that burned the black cross receded like a tide, and the beautiful buttocks retreated from the golden light. The black cross imprint was extremely clear, followed by Angelina's perfect and flawless body. But the experiences in this period of time had made Angelina mature a lot. Although she was panicking, but she knew that there was no point in retreating. She gathered her courage. Not only did she grab onto the fairy hoop, her other hand also extended towards the fairy hoop, holding it with both hands. The fairy palace was built by the generations of constellation masters of Andromeda constellation, and every generation's palace was completely preserved. Every palace's layout was perfectly preserved. Other than the generations of constellation masters, no one knew about it. In the blink of an eye, the palace had become an extremely sturdy fortress. Her face was pale as she looked at the distant Andromeda city. Such a fast speed had exceeded Tang Tian's estimation. It was a star treasure. Tang Tian looked at Angelina, who was wrapped in the golden light. It would not end anytime soon. He started to search inside the palace. Normally, the palace was the last fortress of the Constellation Master, and thus the majority of the Constellation Masters would make it extremely sturdy. The impact of the explosion swept across the entire Andromeda city. The walls of the Andromeda city that had never experienced the flames of war before crumbled. The luxurious and exquisite restaurants and pavilions were like paper crumbling. Let me do it. Because of the decline of mechanical techniques, these mechanisms would usually rely on other powers like star treasures. Tang Tian's move had completely ignited the entire fairy palace. She initially wanted to take the chance to teach Tang Tian a lesson. She did not hate Tang Tian at all. Without Tang Tian, she would have already landed in Ba Fu's hands, living a life worse than death. But this brat made people angry and unhappy. If she could teach him a lesson, that would be the best. Angelina, who had finally obtained the recognition of the fairy hoop, felt that her decision would definitely succeed. Tang Tian secretly shook his head. He was not satisfied with his own servant. Her heart was still kind. Tang Tian looked at Angelina again. The dense golden light was flickering like it was breathing. The calm Tang Tian could not help but be happy. He dared to confirm the entire fairy palace was like a tide rushing over. The entire Andromeda city had even more people rushing over. But he had to hold on for at least 10 minutes, for the saint treasure to recognize a new master was not that fast. He turned his head and looked at Angelina. Angelina's entire body was wrapped in dense golden light, as though it was suddenly frozen. Time passed slowly. Without any warning, Tang Tian appeared beside Angelina and picked up the frightened Angelina. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. This meant that the fairy hoop was extremely close to Angelina, and was naturally compatible. If not, it would not be so fast. In his eyes, kindness was a weakness, and in an intense battle the enemy would always make use of it. But thinking about his other self, Tang Tian was helpless and decided not to think about it. Pa pa pa. That was the fairy hoop. Facing his threats, the fairy hoop actually retreated. Tang Tian quickly closed all the windows. The windows in Asda's palace were specially made. It was equivalent to the fairy palace's last line of defense. Upon closing, it would be able to defend against high-intensity attacks, and it was impossible to open it from the outside. Under the fluttering golden hair, the stern and beautiful face, the gaze that was like a sword, stared intently at Tang Tian. Mingyu, who was swimming in the lake, watched in shock as the ball of light from the explosion of the fairy palace entered the lake, causing half of the fairy lake to evaporate. When the shockwave reached her side, she instinctively activated her body technique and retreated backwards. It was Ba Fu's voice, rumbling even louder than before. The big door shook and countless of dust fell from the roof, but the big door still did not have any signs of opening. With the fairy palace as the center, in a circumference of 20 li, there was only a gigantic black pit. Tang Tian hugged Angelina and fell down. Offending your superiors, kill without mercy. Blast the door open. Even the surface of the river was pressured to the point that the bottom of the river could be seen. The power was unimaginable. And after being chosen as the successor, there were internal struggles between the successors, and the fairy hoop seemed to have become their biggest wish in one night. Although she had dreamt of herself grabbing the fairy hoop countless of times, but when it really happened she still felt fear. In her heart the fairy hoop was sacred and inviolable, but she actually dared to snatch it. Bang! Over 100 silver treasures exploded at the same time. The power produced was unimaginable. The dazzling ball of light enveloped the entire fairy palace, and could be seen from afar. Following that, the terrifying ball of light was like an inflated balloon, spreading out in all directions at an astonishing speed, and wherever it went, everything turned into nothingness. He was like a burst of smoke sweeping past the windows, his rapier moving extremely quickly. In the blink of an eye, all the windows were locked. The fairy hoop on Angelina's wrist wailed. Some even had mechanisms. Chapter 365. The Honorable Martial Alliance had dominated Heaven's Road for too long, and the higher-ups all had the mentality of underestimating the enemy. In their eyes, the newly established Leo constellation had a shallow foundation and no history to speak of. The development of Leo constellation was very low, and they were unable to withstand long periods of war, and the Honorable Martial Alliance's wealth was something no one in Heaven's Road could compare to. As long as the war entered a stalemate, Leo constellation would quickly run out of resources. After 14 years of war, one planet after another, they opened up the current Leo constellation. After 14 years of construction of the Lionheart Palace, it welcomed its master's first visit. The 12 ecliptic palaces, some rose and fell, but all of them were built on the foundations of the previous generation. Only Leo constellation completely abandoned the tradition, and was created by Lei Ang's own will. Thinking about the people outside, they were most likely turned into ashes and no one could survive the explosion. Tang Tian immediately felt that the explanation was very detailed. Maybe there were people who could survive, but definitely not these people. Only martial artists of the sacred saint domain and above could survive the explosion. Such a hero was revered and worshipped by the martial artists under the heavens, and countless of martial artists came from all corners of the world to pledge their loyalty to this hero. The combination of the three was his greatest confidence in controlling Andromeda constellation. Ba Fu was greedy and lustful, the great clan elder was passionate about power, and Kai Lin was already in his pocket, becoming one of his women. They all had their weaknesses, but if they worked together they would be able to support each other. In the close to 1,000 years, no one had ever achieved such a feat. Zhou Xian's face turned green. The accident he did not want to see the most actually happened. A woman like Mingyu was not a little girl who only knew how to flirt, and being obsessed would not make her see you in a new light. Zhou Xian's mood was extremely good. The matter of Andromeda constellation was settled. Because the opponent was Lion King Lei Ong. It was as though the carriage had suddenly entered a storm, like a withered leaf flying. Everyone in the carriage felt the sky shaking. They did not dare fly out of the carriage, and could only instigate true power with all their might and firmly stay in the carriage. The softness in his hands made him subconsciously pinch them. The explosion forced him to change his plans, and the plateau army in Ta Dun's hands had become the strongest power in the entire Andromeda constellation. Adding Angelina, who had obtained the fairy hoop, regardless if it was in name or strength, it was enough to take over. The beauty in his arms had already woken up. Tang Tian knew that she was pretending to be unconscious. However, he didn't care. His mind was completely focused on the fledgling plan in his mind. His eyes shone with a cold light. Even in the bone-chilling underground river, that kind of light made people feel that it was even colder than the river water. Tang Tian's train of thought was interrupted and he stopped playing with his hands. He raised his head and his cold eyes looked at the sky through the water. There was too little room for him to do anything. This meant that the resistance she faced was greatly reduced. That was Fairy City. That fellow liked Jia Shangguan, but he didn't like her too much. She was such a strong and intelligent woman. Alright, he couldn't understand the feelings of childhood sweethearts. He didn't think too much about love. He felt that the beauty in his arms was beautiful, and if the timing was right he would naturally enjoy it. But now he was not in the mood to do so. Everyone in the carriage looked at each other, all of them revealing looks of shock. Other than Angelina's father and the commander of the plateau army, he knew nothing about Ta Dun. The Lion King army continued to grow, and evolved into the current 6 great armies of Leo constellation. Every commander of the 6 great armies was a Saint Domain. Leo constellation had the most famous military general academy, and continuously provided them with military generals. Zhou Xian laughed happily. 6th brother Yi was such a boorish fellow, how could he enter her eyes? The reason why he spent so much effort was because of Andromeda constellation's value. Andromeda constellation's value was underestimated. It could help Zhou Xian in many ways, and money was one of them. The prosperous and affluent Andromeda constellation would become his money bag. Regardless of when, money would always be the strongest power. After flying for a while, Zhou Xian suddenly shouted, "Be careful." He wantonly played with the beautiful buttocks in his hands, his mind still thinking calmly. Tang Tian licked his lips. 15 days of time was still too short. The shock wave was already so terrifying. How powerful would the explosion be? That was an argument that no one could refute. Only a strong man could subdue her. Zhou Ning and the rest were suspicious but immediately agreed. Who? Suddenly the river in front of them became much brighter. Suddenly Tang Tian felt a gaze on him. He turned his head and a cold light flashed past his eyes. That was also the reason why he left in such a hurry. His heart was filled with excitement. Once the war started, Andromeda constellation's strategic value would increase even more, and his position in the martial group would also rise. On the shore, a snow-white figure looked at them from afar. Everyone seemed to have awoken from a dream and immediately turned the carriage, flying at full speed towards Fairy City. Zhou Xian's face changed, his heart sank, and he ordered, "Turn back." They could not imagine what kind of explosion would create such a terrifying shockwave. Although Leo constellation was newly established and had a shallow foundation, but because it was newly established from top to bottom, all of them were filled with ambition, and filled with the desire to expand. The explosion just now had practically wiped out all of the higher-ups of Andromeda constellation. Andromeda constellation's power would decline for a very long period of time. But to Angelina it was the best opportunity. When the light aura dissipated, everyone in the carriage turned their heads at the same time, their faces filled with shock. Suddenly, a dazzling light aura suddenly lit up behind them. The dazzling light aura lit up the entire place, and nothing could be seen in the vast expanse of white. Zhou Xian's opposition was not scary. If Zhou Xian brazenly targeted Angelina, it would only incite the resentment of the citizens of Andromeda constellation, and would instead be beneficial to Angelina. Only the great clan elder Kai Lin, Ba Fu and the other local powerhouses would cause Andromeda constellation to descend into chaos and civil war. Zhou Xian believed that day would come very soon. It could be said that as long as there were no accidents, the 3 of them would be able to control Andromeda constellation's politics for over 10 years. On such a huge matter, Zhou Xian did not have any authority to speak, so he could only shut his mouth. Zhou Xian's smile froze on his face. "Do not spread this matter." He suddenly ordered Zhou Ning and the rest. Zhou Xian was astute and farsighted. There was no doubt about the importance of Andromeda constellation, but it was not the best time to reveal it. The war had just started, and many of the clan elders in the martial group looked down on Leo constellation, as they were obviously not prepared for the difficulty of the war. To mention it at such a time, not only would it not attract the attention of the higher-ups, it would easily leak out. Furthermore, he had just received news that Leo constellation and the Honorable Martial Alliance had started a war. Tang Tian was extremely satisfied with the result. His injuries had caused his thoughts to not be as meticulous as usual. When the Lionheart Palace was sealed, he was out fighting. Only when the war was in a stalemate would the importance of the hidden chess piece in his hands be revealed. Tang Tian did not expect that it would cause such a shocking explosion. The crux of the problem was Ta Dun. Although he was slightly moved by the fairy hoop, but compared to Andromeda constellation's value, it was lacking. Without Lan Di and Angelina, Kai Lin was the rightful new constellation master. Kai Lin, the great clan elder Ba Fu, this was the perfect combination that he had meticulously created, and no one in Andromeda constellation could fight against such a powerful trio. "What are you all standing there for? Go back." Zhou Xian's angry roar exploded in everyone's ears, causing them to wake up from their daze, and anxiously started up the carriage again. They could only wait and see. Thinking about Leo constellation, Zhou Xian's heart became heavy. But luckily Andromeda constellation was in his hands and he finally had a good card. They were already outside. In the night outside of the chaotic and noisy fairy city, a black figure slowly rose from the surface of the fairy lake. He squinted his eyes, hugging Angelina. He slowly floated up. On the other hand, the Honorable Martial Alliance had dominated Heaven's Road for a long time. They were known to have experienced battles, but compared to the Leo constellation, all of them had killed their way out from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. The disparity was huge. After half a minute, the carriage gradually slowed down and unknowingly, they were pushed out. A few Zhou Xian could not refute, but he believed that it would not be so easy. He was different from the declining Aries constellation. This man with an unyielding character used his own strength to create the Lion King army that could shake the world. Although he had inherited the inheritance of the ancient Leo constellation, but he did not go to the ancient Leo constellation, but walked on an even more difficult path. He led the Lion King army and without any supplies, brazenly entered the nameless constellation that was filled with dangerous energy flows, and forcefully opened up the current Leo constellation. And Mingyu, that was an unexpected joy. He did not hide anything in front of Mingyu. Mingyu was an ambitious woman. She was more scheming and shrewd than anyone else, and in the current era, it was a quality that a leader had to possess. He could see the admiration in Mingyu's eyes, but he did not pester her. Who did it? Tang Tian relaxed his state of mind. Being injured had affected his state of mind greatly. Tang Tian, who was hugging Angelina, coincidentally grabbed onto Angelina's buttocks. Oh, it feels good. Lion King Leong was fully deserving of his title as the strongest hero of this era. As long as one had done a little research on Leong, they would know how terrifying this Lion King was when he was at his peak. Bang! The underground river water was bone-chilling. Tang Tian spat out blood. Angelina, who was in his embrace, fainted. The power of the explosion was too strong. Tang Tian felt as though he was struck by a wild beast. All the bones in his body felt like they were going to fall apart. Although Angelina had the protection of the fairy hoop, she was still too weak and fainted from the impact. Not good. The terrifying ripple in the air expanded at an astonishing speed in front of everyone's eyes. The shockwave was like a hurricane sweeping out. The flow of the underground river was extremely rapid. Tang Tian relaxed his body, allowing the river to bring them forward. Chapter 366. Wrong. Her flawless white slender fingers had a glossy luster that caused people's hearts to palpitate. When he saw her, he acted as though there was no one else around and placed the beauty in his embrace down, and took out a piece of clothing to drape over the perfect body. The two of them swayed and separated like springs. Tang Tian did not care about her and placed Angelina on his back again, took out a rope and carefully tied her up. If it was useful, it would not be abandoned. Without thinking, Tang Tian switched his sword to his left hand, his right hand's 5 fingers like a pipa, 5 extremely sharp sword auras, struck Mingyu's palm sword. At the same time, his upper body did not move an inch. His left leg swung back like a pendulum. A sharp sword aura flew out from his left leg, accurately striking the sword aura that Mingyu's soul had released. Her eyes blurred, and his figure appeared in front of her like a ghost. He had the qualifications to be her target to learn from. Saint Treasure Fairy Hoop. Especially when he was more beautiful than her, his temperament was cold, pure and clean, and she, for some reason the current Zhou Xian, made her feel that his bearing was slightly lacking. Mingyu said, "Fairy Lake." Angelina secretly decided. Mingyu's gaze landed on the figure that was slowly rising from the water. Mingyu then realized she had fallen into his trap. For a very long time, this cold and powerful man would always be shrouding her life. In a short period of time, she would not be able to get rid of this shadow, and if he failed, her situation would be even worse. Her master was seriously tying her on his back. After 2 days of interaction, Angelina had a certain understanding of her mysterious master. Temper, he would definitely not do meaningless things. He had spent a long time tying her tightly on his back, so tightly that she could not breathe. Mingyu's heart suddenly surged with a strong sense of danger. In a moment of desperation, her beautiful eyes turned frosty, and her left palm extended out in front of her face. "The last time you borrowed my carriage to enter the city, we did not have the chance to meet, but today we need to have a good talk." Mingyu's eyes were as bright as the stars. The biting cold fighting intent made her, who was dressed in white like snow, look like a spotless sword. "Brother Qi," she calmly greeted. A trace of admiration flashed in her eyes. To be able to cultivate the 15 pipa swords to such an extent, the other party's talent in the sword was truly astonishing. Tightly sticking to his back that was as hard as steel, Angelina's face changed. No one knew what she was thinking. What was even more terrifying was that the torrential attacks were all concentrated in the narrow space of Mingyu's sword. No matter what, you can't panic. Calm down, you must calm down. Angelina knew that it wasn't because her master liked her, but because she was useful to him. If she was of no use to him, he would abandon her without hesitation. She didn't chase after him. Instead, she quietly watched as Tang Tian fell into the lake. She didn't hide the admiration in her eyes. This was the first time she had suffered a loss since her debut. The other party's origins were thought-provoking. The sword domain was extremely mysterious and very few people knew about it. Generations of disciples would never reveal their true identities when they traveled. Only Zhou Xian, a disciple from a first-rate aristocratic family in Heaven's Road, would know about it. Tang Tian's thrust was extremely powerful. The rapier instantly bent to the extreme, causing people to suspect if it would break. The sharp rapier pierced into Mingyu's sword body. Mingyu's palms heated up and both her legs sank into the ground. Mingyu was surprised such a powerful force. Angelina wanted to find a hole and hide in it. 15 pipa swords, created 200 years ago by the pipa sword Saint Shang Wanting, originated from the pipa technique. Shang Wanting was a singer and was proficient in the pipa. Later on, he was taught sword techniques by an expert, and became a saint at the age of 47. He had not even walked out of Andromeda constellation when the cooked duck flew away. The opponent's sword was not a sneak attack, but an attempt to borrow strength. The sound was like a bell resonating far and wide. It was extremely beautiful, but it was also extremely sharp. A man shrouded in darkness was holding a naked, beautiful woman in his arms. This kind of charming scene was filled with a cold and sharp taste. "Sister Ming, were you fighting with someone just now?" Zhou Xian asked anxiously. He had heard the movement of Mingyu's finger and followed the sound. No one in Andromeda constellation had the qualifications to make Mingyu fight, except for the mysterious swordsman. Zhou Xian's face twisted. Thinking about the past few days of being by Zhou Xian's side, the naked lady's name immediately surfaced in her mind. Angelina, the third successor of Andromeda constellation. If I find you, I will definitely grind your bones to dust. Mingyu's expression turned cold. The sword in her hand suddenly moved horizontally in front of her. Taking advantage of her shock, Tang Tian suddenly launched a sneak attack. "Thank you, Sister Ming." With that, Zhou Xian and the rest soared into the sky. A guard beside Zhou Xian shot out a ray of red light from his eyes, the red light continuously sweeping across the lake. He had trained in eye-related martial techniques and his level was not low. The group of people circled around the fairy lake, but did not discover anything. Her jade-like fingers closed, her left palm like a sword. In the blink of an eye, it pierced towards Tang Tian's face. At the same time, a cold sword aura quietly flew towards Tang Tian's lower abdomen. Suddenly, the sound of air breaking broke her train of thought. It was Zhou Xian and the rest who had returned. Zhou Xian's face was ashen. Obviously his mood was extremely bad. Seeing his face, adding the explosion of the fairy palace, Mingyu's heart became clear. Mingyu watched with interest. The girl's bashfulness and panic and the man's cold and calm formed a strong contrast. The cold and sharp black and white scene in front of her suddenly seemed to have a few more colors and became lively. After careful observation, she very quickly discovered many things. Behind the two of them was the blazing fairy city. Without question, the source of the explosion was the two people in front of her. No, it was this man. Mingyu could feel, through the layer of black mist, a pair of eyes staring at her. She suddenly felt something was wrong. The extremely bent sword body suddenly retracted, and Tang Tian, who was rushing in front of her, suddenly disappeared. Tang Tian slowly spat out the 4 words. Angelina's gaze immediately became cold. A blurry black aura suddenly enlarged in front of her. They did not come with good intentions. The sword body trembled. The extremely dense sword rain was actually forcefully swept away. Mingyu's gaze landed on Angelina's wrist. A cold glint flashed past her eyes, her expression cold. "The two of you truly have good methods obtaining the saint treasure. Just that, to start such a massacre, it is truly against the heavens." She had never seen Mingyu before, but from the start the other party was extremely strong. Angelina calmed down, her heart suddenly moved and secretly observed Tang Tian's reaction. In her heart, this mysterious master of hers was the strongest and coldest person she had ever met. Ding ding ding. That was the first thing Angelina learned. Dang. Master was not affected by the opponent's aura at all. Thinking about her previous panic and shyness, Angelina felt ashamed. Obviously, Master only thought that the following battle would be extremely intense, and thus specially did that. Suddenly, the sword in Mingyu's hand was coiled by a black steel rope. It was actually the rapier in Tang Tian's hand. Tang Tian took advantage of the situation. His entire being became a black shadow, and with a whoosh he entered Mingyu's embrace. She quietly stood at the lakeside, her mind recalling the battle. But one day I will be able to break free from the devil's clutches. Zhou Xian's face twitched, the sinister look in his eyes faintly revealed. He controlled himself. I wonder where they escaped to? Ding. Mingyu's expression was strange. She stared intently at Tang Tian. 15 pipa swords. The opponent was actually able to see through it. Yes, a mysterious swordsman, Angelina, is in his hands. Mingyu did not hide anything and spoke the truth. Although she could not see Tang Tian's face clearly, but she was sure Tang Tian was definitely a man. The fairy lake's waters were crisscrossed with underground rivers, and the underwater tributaries were extremely complicated. Tang Tian's extremely sharp rapier struck the jade palm, releasing a clear and crisp sound, but was unable to advance an inch. Mingyu did not panic at all. The airflow that Tang Tian brought along caused her long hair to fly up high. Her flawless and beautiful face flashed with a dazzling luster. Tang Tian was unable to dodge. If he dodged, Angelina, who was on his back, would be pierced. In the next moment he appeared above the lake out of thin air. The slender rapier in Tang Tian's hands was like a black rainstorm. If Ling Su was here, he would definitely be dumbstruck. The sword rain that Tang Tian released was actually even more terrifying than his pointed sea spears. Until Mingyu's words caused her to immediately wake up. She was not stupid at all. It was just that she had been pampered since young with Lan Di around. The competition between the other successors had always been maintained at a low level. Facing such a huge change, she always felt at a loss. Although she tried her best to become more powerful, but the road to growth was not that short. Just at this time, Tang Tian suddenly raised his head. His face was shrouded in a black mist and could not be seen clearly, but the eyes behind the black mist were like two unfathomably deep black pools. If she did not see it with her own eyes, she would never have imagined that a man would actually learn a lady's sword technique. What made her even more surprised was, the lady's sword technique in his hands did not have the slightest bit of feminine aura, but became gentle and sharp. From start to finish, he did not look at Mingyu, nor did he ask Angelina anything. Ding. Mingyu's expression was cold, her left palm tapped, and suddenly flicked the sword body. Mingyu's face finally changed. In such a short period of contact, the opponent was actually able to see through her background. Her mind was shaken. Zhou Xian's anger finally reached its peak. He roared, "Seal all the star doors in Andromeda constellation. Investigate. Even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground, you have to find out." Angelina laid on Tang Tian's back. Both of them were drenched. Tang Tian's back was not considered broad, but his muscles were as hard as rocks, sticking closely to her body. Her face was flushed red as though it was about to bleed. She never thought that there would be people on the shore. Sword domain. Sword body. Mingyu's expression was strange. Of course there was a reason. The 15 pipa swords did not refer to the 15 forms, but because Shang Wanting only started learning the pipa at the age of 15. The sword technique was created by a sword saint and was naturally extremely powerful, but the sword technique was only suitable for females to learn. Chapter 367. Zhou Ning hesitated for a moment and could only tell the truth. We are in one-way contact with the Great Elder, Karen and Bafu. Right now we have no local allies, no eyes and ears. Zhou Xian's heart sunk, but he did not panic since he was discovered. Then he had to attack. Was it fate? The people he brought were all elites of the Honorable Martial Alliance. Such guards might be difficult for ordinary martial artists, but for them it was not a problem at all. Zhou Ning's pupils suddenly shrank. In order to change the passive situation, Martial Group would definitely sacrifice himself, and what awaited him would definitely be an extremely severe punishment. Zhou Xian's face was pale white, His entire body felt as though he had fallen into an ice house. He had been tricked. She no longer had the courage to fight him. The entire fairy city, no, the entire upper echelon of fairy city was completely erased, and everything that happened at that time was completely erased. This abnormal phenomenon made everyone even more excited. Without a doubt, the possibility of Angelina hiding here was extremely high. He was the 10th elder. Normally, he didn't manage anything and preferred peace and quiet, so he was able to escape this disaster. However, he had been an elder for the longest time, watching Asda grow up. His feelings for Asda were extremely deep, his heart feeling like it was being twisted. The Rose House was instantly reduced to dust. Another old general donned in armor, his hair was as white as snow, but he was not angry. He was the previous commander of the Plateau Army. He said sternly, "Although my Andromeda constellation is small, but we cannot allow people to trample on us. From today onwards, my fairy city and the Honorable Martial Alliance are irreconcilable. Kill." Zhou Xian gestured to Zhou Ning. Zhou Xian took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. There was no point in being angry at this time. He said in a low voice, "Did you find out who spread it?" And his so-called truth would be like the wind spreading throughout the entire northern sky's 19 continents, causing many of the smaller constellations to be united against a common enemy. Leo constellation would spread it wantonly, using it to smear the name of the Honorable Martial Alliance. There is an expert behind Angelina. Zhou Xian had already calmed down. It is that mysterious swordsman. Angelina must have already returned to the Rose Manor. If not, there would not be such rumors. We only have one path: to kill Angelina and take back the fairy hoop. Since Andromeda constellation is already in chaos, then we will make it even more chaotic. The other people's lights also smashed towards the Rose House at the same time. At this time, someone suggested, "Then can we rope in some of the local chambers of commerce? I saw that they were very friendly to us that day." Chaos, unprecedented chaos. Yes. Everyone acknowledged the order. The faces of the other people beside Zhou Xian all became extremely ugly, but they could not refute what he said. This kind of rumor was too destructive and too convincing. At such a delicate moment, he had made such a fatal mistake. He knew that he was finished. Zhou Xian laughed. "Bullshit. Now the market is saying that this big explosion was caused by us. You made it sound so convincing, saying that we were angry because Asda refused to form an alliance." In the distance, the sounds of killing filled with rage shook the heavens, and they were rapidly approaching. Andrina, who had personally arranged all the steps and witnessed the entire process, was dumbstruck. After a long while, she regained her senses and turned her pale face. If he was alive, he wanted to see him. If dead, he wanted to see his corpse. The curtains of the Rose House were tightly shut. "He's finished." He bellowed out, "Kill." He opened his eyes in a daze. All of his confidence in that moment disappeared without a trace. From today onwards, Fairy City had changed from a neutral position to an enemy of the Honorable Martial Alliance, and became Leo Constellation's staunchest ally. "Let's go to the Rose Manor." No matter how he refuted or argued, no one would believe him. Zhou Ning could feel the killing intent being released by the master above him, and knew that the master was extremely angry, but the matter was too serious. He did not dare to hide anything and could only bite the bullet and continue. A ruthless look flashed past Zhou Xian's eyes. If not for the fact that they had personally experienced it, they might even believe the rumor. Their previous performance was too realistic. They had just left and the fairy palace had exploded, and it was not an ordinary explosion. The power of the explosion was so huge that it shocked everyone. The shouts of killing came closer and closer like a tide. For the sake of not raising their guard, the guards were at least 2 kilometers away. A snow-white beam of light landed directly on his face. A group of people quietly snuck into the manor. Thinking about what had happened in the past 2 days, her mind was in a mess. The light beam came from a watchtower that was 400 m away from the Rose Manor. Almost at the same time, beams of light shot down from different heights, shining on them. Kill. But all schemes in the face of absolute power would be completely destroyed. He spat out the 3 words without turning his head. Zhou Xian's pupils constricted. There was no one in the building. That blurry face, that low and hoarse voice, that figure that was enveloped in the darkness at that moment, it was extremely bewitching, so terrifying. Fairy City was currently in a mess, lacking a reputable person to take charge. It caused the situation to be in chaos. That day, the great clan elder who had plotted for Ta Dun's crime, almost all of the higher-ups and famous people in Fairy City were captured in one fell swoop. In the explosion, no one survived. Bang! Everyone was roused. Very quickly, everyone reached Angelina's residence. It was a small building filled with climbing roses, and the people in the manor called it the Rose Manor. Their previous efforts were not in vain and were extremely useful. The curtains on the windows were closed tightly and the room was very dark. Tang Tian sat at the corner of the room. He sat cross-legged with his eyes closed, seemingly in a trance. Not far away, Angelina rested her chin on her arm, looking at Tang Tian who was in a trance. But the development of the situation made them even more surprised. Tang Tian watched the entire process coldly. They looked at each other in dismay and smiled bitterly. Zhou Xian's face was green. In front of him, Zhou Ning carefully reported. They said it was not an ordinary explosion, such a powerful explosion, only the Honorable Martial Alliance can do it. Also, the time of the explosion was too coincidental, we had just left. A cold intent spread from the bottom of his heart. Zhou Ning understood he was about to take action when a sudden change occurred. Finished, my life is finished. Zhou Ning understood the master's meaning. He shook his head and laughed bitterly. They said because master harmed Lan Di and Kai Lin, the great clan elder, and Asda, to protect Angelina, put on a show. Some also said Asda knew that she would not be able to escape, so she gave the fairy hoop to Angelina, and let her escape through the tunnel. There are many versions of this rumor. The fairy hoop is in Angelina's hands. Zhou Xian said. Not good, it's an ambush. At that time they were in a rush to the fairy palace and did not have time to spread the news. Zhou Xian looked at the tightly guarded manor, squinting his eyes. Without question, the rumors in the market were all spread by Angelina. And the one behind the scenes was most likely the mysterious swordsman. They screwed up. The citizens are willing to believe and the families are also willing to believe. Zhou Ning said, they need someone to control the situation, and Angelina obtaining the fairy hoop is perfectly justifiable. Most importantly, no one believes that Angelina was able to cause such a huge explosion. The security of the Rose Manor was extremely tight. Every 10 steps there was a guard, every 5 steps there was a sentry, even a bird could not enter. He had already confirmed the fact that he had killed Asda, and confirmed the fact that he had caused the explosion. They had long investigated Angelina, and were very clear on the location of the Angelina family. They did not have many people, but at the same time their target was small. They split up and quietly arrived at Angelina's Rose Manor. His methods were truly too terrifying. In the past 2 days, they had personally witnessed how he could turn his hands into clouds, and turn his hands into rain. The entire Fairy City was being toyed with by him. The security in Fairy City was in a mess. All the rich and powerful families were in fear. They did not know what had happened. What made them panic the most was that their patriarchs and clan elders had all disappeared. The various families could only close their doors and guard it tightly, and on the other hand send people to search for their patriarchs and clan elders. The other manors were brightly lit, waiting for news through the night, but the Rose Manor was in darkness, with only teams of guards patrolling anxiously. Good, good, good. An old and sorrowful voice resonated in the sky. In the distance on a sentry post, an old man with white hair and beard, with tears streaming down his face, sorrowfully said, Master, your spirit in heaven, are you trying to tell us, who is the one who harmed you? Every step he took fell into the opponent's trap. The opponent purposely spread rumors, purposely gave him a clue and laid a trap. Suddenly, Zhou Xian awoke from his dream. The trap was extremely similar to the one he laid for Ta Dun. He raised his head, his eyes bloodshot like a wild beast on the verge of death. Another middle-aged man with a square face had his eyes spewing fire and bellowed, Zhou Xian, my Andromeda constellation and the Honorable Martial Alliance, what grudge do we have? You actually dare to be so vicious. You are so vicious. About 3 kilometers away from the Rose Manor was an ordinary building, where the servants of the manor lived. A window that had been tightly covered by curtains had been pushed aside by a thin sliver of curtain. This was like yellow mud falling into one's pants. Even if it was not shit, it was shit. Zhou Ning glanced at him and said, At this time, who dares to risk universal condemnation and contact us? No one will believe us. Also, almost all of the big commerce masters in Andromeda City, all died in the explosion. Everything was abnormal. This chaos brought a huge obstacle to Zhou Xian and the rest search. Zhou Xian brought a limited number of people facing such an uncontrollable situation, they could not even make a splash. The sword in his hand immediately released a bright light as bright as the sun, slashing towards the Rose Manor, the astonishing sword aura. Rose Manor. This abnormal situation further confirmed Zhou Xian's judgment. More importantly, there were only people entering the manor, no one coming out. It was an extremely abnormal situation. The other family's security would also be tight, but there would always be people coming in and out. Because they were all searching for their loved ones who went missing in the explosion, but no one came out from the Rose Manor. He was the son of the biggest commerce master in Andromeda City, and there was still no news of his father. The pain of losing his father was deep into his bones. Chapter 368. Countless of weapons stabbed into Zhou Xian's body. Zhou Ning's words stopped abruptly, his expression froze, his body froze, and looked at Angelina in disbelief. If our dignity needs to be protected with blood, then we will definitely use blood to protect it. If our homeland needs to be protected with our lives, then we will definitely use our lives to protect it. Our hatred will be repaid with blood. I, Angelina, master of Andromeda Constellation, in the name of revenge, declare war on the Honorable Martial Alliance. Just when everyone was in a dilemma, a graceful and dignified figure slowly walked out from the darkness. It was Angelina. 15 days was truly too short. Our Andromeda Constellation loves peace, and has never fought in other constellations. Our Andromeda Constellation treats people harmoniously. Even for such arrogant people, we treat them with all our heart. Evidence? Do we need evidence? Where is this? This is Andromeda Constellation. This is our homeland, the place where our ancestors lived for generations, our home, a place that we need to use our lives to protect. Our dignity has been trampled, our leaders have been assassinated, our clan elders, less than 10% remain. Do we still need evidence? Can evidence bring back the dead? Can evidence revive the fairy palace? Can evidence bring us back to our previous lives? No, nothing at all. We can't go back. We have already been forced to our doorstep. In front of us is the blood of the dead. Behind us is our home, our loved ones. Retreat a step? Where can we retreat to? We have nowhere to retreat to. Nowhere to retreat to. But there was no if. The fairy palace was gone, Londi was gone, so many more were gone. Zhou Xian's face was pale white. This woman is crazy, she is crazy. Mingyu's cold voice came out from the sky. Tang Tian and Mingyu faced each other. The moment Angelina went out, Tang Tian had sensed an expert spying on them, but he did not expect it to be the sword domain lady by the lake. Tang Tian was in awe. That sentence was more lethal than anything else. If Zhou Xian had fought to the death just now, then under his rage he would have died in the chaos and no one could say anything. But when he threw out that sentence, everyone had no choice but to consider. Angelina's figure was hard to see in the light. Only her firm and unwavering voice resonated in Andromeda Constellation. Zhou Xian was right. That's not a performance. Tang Tian suddenly said. He could hear the grief and indignation in Angelina's heart. The declaration of war had been his idea, but the emotion in Angelina's words was real. Fight. What about the sword domain? Tang Tian said coldly. The sword domain's disciple rule states that those who are not saints are not allowed to leave the domain. Angelina's tears finally flowed uncontrollably. Bastard. Zhou Xian was enraged. He struggled with all his might, but his meridians were all sealed by true power, and he was unable to move. His eyes were about to pop out. I will definitely flatten Andromeda Constellation. Definitely. Who exactly are you? Mingyu stared at Tang Tian and asked. Shang Wanting does not have any disciples. The killing intent in Tang Tian's heart surged, although he had misgivings about Mingyu's background, but Mingyu had pestered him time and time again, causing killing intent to form in his heart. He only felt that he had enough troubles and did not want to cause more trouble, and not because he was afraid of the sword domain. Seeing Zhou Ning, Angelina's eyes flashed a trace of hatred. The matters of the other day surged into her mind. She raised her head and walked to Zhou Ning. He did not have much time left. He still had many things to arrange and did not have time to waste on a strange woman. Angelina's direct declaration of war surprised him, but after thinking about it, it was reasonable and was not too far from his plan. Facing the direction where Mingyu disappeared, he stared for a moment, then retracted his gaze and once again merged into the darkness. She stared at Zhou Xian, her state of mind extremely calm. We do not need evidence. Because from today onwards Andromeda Constellation will declare war on the Honorable Martial Alliance. Zhou Ning's face was filled with ridicule as he allowed the guards to tie him up. Zhou Xian should not die here, Mingyu said. Upon saying that, she knew that she had said something wrong. Angelina slowly walked in front of Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian's handsome face made her feel disgusted. Her peaceful life was broken by him. In just a few days it felt like a lifetime had passed. Every night she would be woken up by nightmares, and it was all because of him. As expected, Tang Tian's ridiculing voice came out. That's why he died here. You don't need evidence? And then you guys killed a core disciple of the Honorable Martial Alliance? Zhou Ning laughed out loud as though he had heard the funniest joke. Such a thing has never happened before, and it will never happen again. Zhou Xian looked at Angelina in disbelief. You're crazy. You're definitely crazy. Do you know what you're doing? Are you trying to destroy Andromeda Constellation? You guys are just like ants, and you dare to declare war on the Honorable Martial Alliance? To the weakened Andromeda Constellation, stability was more important than anything else, and only stability was in line with the benefits of the various families. Angelina's tears almost flowed out, but she held them back. In the past few days she had learned that tears were useless. Although she could not be as cold and emotionless as him, but she had improved. The lords hurriedly bowed in greeting. Although they did not know why the fairy hoop was in Angelina's hands, but Angelina was the third successor, and they were familiar with her daily life and knew her character very clearly. No one knew what had happened, but the result to Andromeda Constellation was a blessing in disguise. Because with Leo Constellation would definitely not sit and watch. Angelina wiped away her tears. She took off the fairy hoop on her wrist and raised it high above her head. The fairy hoop lit up with a dazzling light aura, like the sun, illuminating Fairy City as though it was daytime. The star power of Andromeda Constellation slowly revolved, and the undulations of the star power spread to every corner of Andromeda Constellation. Mingyu's eyes suddenly lit up with a light aura. You truly are familiar with the sword domain. Which of the 12 ecliptic palaces are you from? Which sword saint disciple are you? If not for him, she would still be living her carefree life. Big sister Lan Di had become the constellation master, and everyone would be drinking tea and chatting in the fairy palace's back garden. He had some standards. We will meet again. Everyone was shocked by Angelina's actions. The Angelina in front of them was so unfamiliar. Every single person from Andromeda Constellation had tears streaming down their cheeks. Andromeda Constellation had never experienced the flames of war before, and everyone's fighting had always been restricted to a very low level, so they had never experienced such sorrow before. Especially the people who had lost their loved ones, they all cried out loud. The killing intent in Tang Tian's heart had just risen, but Mingyu immediately sensed it and her heart trembled. But more than that, she was shocked. The other party knew that she was a disciple of the sword domain, but still had killing intent. That also meant that the other party was not afraid of the sword domain. Zhou Ning scoffed. What? Don't tell me you still want to. Her hoarse voice reverberated in the air, and even the clouds in the sky seemed to be shaken by it. The sound waves swept across the entire Andromeda constellation like a hurricane. You won't have the chance. Zhou Xian was dazed, his expression at a loss. Kill them all. Tang Tian, who was in the shadows, was interested. His eyes were ice cold, but a pity he did not want to leave an enemy for himself. He whispered a few words into Angelina's ear, and Angelina's face immediately turned white. She took a deep breath, puffed out her chest, and strode forward. Mingyu suddenly bent her body in the air, and like a snow-white big bird, she flew into the sky. Angelina bellowed. Zhou Xian's second sentence made them feel even more at ease. Kill him. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Such a simple logic the Lion King would definitely understand. This result surprised Tang Tian. He had thought that Zhou Xian would break out and fight to the death, but he never thought that he would surrender. What was even more interesting was the sentence he said after he was tied up. Angelina's light aura was dazzling. Everyone present roared in unison. Fight! Tang Tian immediately had a headache. The other party knew of his relationship with Angelina, and that was definitely a huge hidden danger. Good acting. Good methods. Hearing Angelina's words, Mingyu could not help but be moved. Her heart was filled with praise. It looked like a reckless declaration of war, but it was actually not dangerous. But guesses were forever guesses. There was no concrete evidence to prove that it was Zhou Xian who did it. Although Zhou Xian had stumbled on the matter, but his family was deeply rooted in the honorable martial group. As long as there was no concrete evidence, they could slowly wrangle it out. Zhou Xian's words immediately calmed the hearts of his subordinates. Zhou Ning said sinisterly, "How you guys tied me up today, I will let you guys untie me in the same way." Angelina was one of the successors with the authority to obtain the fairy hoop, and her father Ta Dun controlled the plateau army, which was one of the reasons why everyone supported her. It was the 7th day. Zhou Xian had surrendered. "If you don't say it, then I will do it myself." Mingyu snorted. She moved like lightning, her snow sword unsheathed. The people of Andromeda constellation all revealed looks of anger, but no one moved. They felt that it was a thorny problem. If Zhou Xian insisted that he was framed, without any concrete evidence, they would not be able to do anything to Zhou Xian. Angelina released the dagger in her hand, took out a snow-white handkerchief, and wiped the blood stains on her hands. For some reason she did not feel the slightest bit of discomfort after killing someone. "Seems like I have been with that guy for too long and have become gloomy. Who exactly is he? I have already sent a letter to the martial group. They will immediately send people over." Zhou Xian's expression was calm, his gaze cold. "I am the Honorable Martial Alliance and not someone that you can casually frame." There was no concrete evidence to prove that Asda's death and the explosion of the fairy palace was caused by Zhou Xian. Even if Zhou Xian's sneak attacked the Rose Manor, causing everyone to believe that it was 100% done by Zhou Xian. Tang Tian did not care about her. Sword Domain was a group of lunatics. The men were male lunatics, the women were female lunatics. Although they had only met once and although her tone was polite, but the condescending tone made Tang Tian dislike it. And Tang Tian suspected that Mingyu would find trouble with him through Angelina. He had finally found a suitable female servant, and did not want her to die prematurely. Angelina did not look at him again. She turned and faced the other people who had faces of shock. "You have no evidence to prove that I did it." She laughed at herself in her heart. Chapter 369. 8th level. Tang Tian was at a loss, but after a while he reacted, "Oh my. I remember we swallowed the crane crystal pill." Facing the overbearing Honorable Martial Alliance, the Constellation Masters dared not say anything, and remained silent towards the Honorable Martial Alliance's request, which was their silent protest. Tang Tian said it casually, causing Angelina's heart to tighten. "Idiot." Ling Su rolled his eyes. She listened carefully, trying her best to imprint every word he said into her mind. His foresight and understanding of the current situation was something she could not compare to. His cold voice resonated in the room, causing Angelina to listen attentively. She knew that regardless of whether it was in terms of tactics or understanding of the current situation, she was far from being able to compare to him. Tang Tian's unfathomable methods had completely subdued her. To her, Zhou Xian was already unfathomable, but he was easily killed by him. As for how to hold on, think about it yourself. I am not familiar with Andromeda constellation, but the essence of war is to use your strongest point to attack the enemy's weakest point. If you really die, then there is nothing you can do. Qi Meng was about to speak, but Qi Yuntai said indifferently, "It is fine if Orion constellation does not speak, but once it does, we cannot retreat. The war has just started and the martial group is already retreating, then there is no need to fight anymore. Not only will they fight, they will win beautifully." In this period of time she needed to face it alone, and face the Honorable Martial Alliance's counterattack. The terrifying pressure was like a mountain crushing down on her. Time slowly passed. "Liar." Ling Su scolded. He shook his head and calmed himself down. The Honorable Martial Alliance did not expect Orion constellation to interfere at such a critical juncture. But if the war had just started and they were already in such a passive situation, only the loneliness and darkness belonged to them. In the entire matter, Zhou Xian's figure was faintly discernible. Although there were people who suspected Angelina, but almost everyone thought that the Honorable Martial Alliance was the mastermind behind the plot. The Honorable Martial Alliance insisted that Andromeda constellation did not have any evidence, but their rebuttal was powerless. She already knew that he would be leaving for a period of time and it would be a very long time. This caused her to panic, but his tone did not allow any doubts, so she did not speak. Qi Meng might seem crude, but he was meticulous and thought, "Then what about us? Are we just going to watch?" To any constellation, people like Zhou Xian who used conspiracies to subvert and destroy other constellations were hated by all constellations. In time, everyone was in danger, especially the small constellations. They all stayed far away from Honorable Martial Group. The sound of something breaking through the air came out from not far away. Tang Tian subconsciously turned his head. A figure was completely enveloped by a ball of spear images. How? Angelina's entire body turned cold. Even he said that it would be tough. How tough would it be? Zhou Xian's diplomatic mission to Andromeda constellation. Asda objected to the alliance with the Honorable Martial Alliance. Zhou Xian left angrily, and then the explosion of the fairy palace, Asda's death. The higher-ups almost losing their lives. Zhou Xian's night attack on Angelina's Rose Manor. Tang Tian sighed at how time passed quickly. It's true, I'm still at the 7th level. Tang Tian scratched his head, his face full of suspicion. But my 7th level seems to be different from before. You're finally awake. Crane's joyful voice sounded out beside his ear. Andromeda constellation was just one of the 19 continents in the northern sky. Its power was not considered strong, and with the loss of the higher-ups, it was even weaker. But it had a long history and had a harmonious relationship with the other constellations. The generations of constellation masters were kind to others, and had formed countless of good karma. Andromeda constellation's misfortune had caused the other constellations to sympathize with them. I still haven't taken revenge for myself. Qi Meng mumbled. Tang Tian opened his eyes in a daze. He felt that his body was extremely tired, and his entire body did not have any strength. It was as though he had just completed some kind of high-intensity training and there was still some dull pain. Although Angelina had become the constellation master of Andromeda constellation, but Andromeda City was in chaos. The aristocratic families and businesses were all like a group of dragons without a leader, and to Tang Tian, it was the best opportunity. The two of them looked at Tang Tian in shock. The sky full of spear images suddenly disappeared, revealing Ling Su's figure. Ling Su's face had an unconcealable look of joy. I'm at the 8th level. Crane's expression relaxed. That's right, how could I forget that this crazy young man is a freak? This brat's improvement in training has always been abnormal. Wait a minute, don't tell me he's really at the 9th level. I'm also at the 8th level. Crane's face brimmed with a confident smile. The war has just begun. Crane immediately became anxious. What's wrong? The Honorable Martial Alliance will not give up. They want to display their strength. Their people are already on the way and you are their target. Orion Constellation and Leo Constellation's martial artists are also on the way. They will risk their lives to protect you. Andromeda Constellation will become their battlefield. You need to take charge of the situation. This news made all the constellation masters in Heaven's Road excited. With that, Tang Tian disappeared without a trace of reluctance. He initially wanted to meet Ta Dun to see the quality of the plateau army, but there was not enough time. They will not send many people and their strength will not be high. What you need to do is to contact all the powers that can be contacted and fight against them. This process will be very difficult and Andromeda Constellation will be smashed to pieces, but you need to hold on. The battle between the Honorable Martial Alliance and Leo Constellation had started, causing the entire Heaven's Road to be filled with the atmosphere of war. But the change in Andromeda Constellation immediately attracted the attention of Heaven's Road. And the new constellation master of Andromeda Constellation, Angelina, had publicly declared war on the Honorable Martial Alliance, causing the entire Heaven's Road to be shaken. The Honorable Martial Alliance was enraged, and directly accused Andromeda Constellation of framing the Honorable Martial Alliance. And Zhou Xian's family even announced that they wanted to flatten Andromeda Constellation. The experts of the Qi family had already traveled day and night, killing their way to Andromeda Constellation. They wanted to take revenge for Zhou Xian. In the Rose Manor, Tang Tian and Angelina were saying the same thing. Qi Yuntai looked into the distance. What's the rush? The war has just begun. I'm leaving. The crane crystal pellet was created by him. If anything were to happen, he would definitely feel guilty. Tang Tian shook his head. I'm still at the 7th level. After spending a week's time, Tang Tian secretly assisted Angelina and established the Andromeda Merchant Alliance. Almost all the powerful merchant organizations in Andromeda City were wiped out in one fell swoop. Even with his outstanding intelligence, he still felt that it was too much. The Qi family was a big family of the Honorable Martial Alliance, and was much more prominent than the Yi family. The current Qi family patriarch Qi Yuing was one of the 13 Honorable Martial Clan elders of the Honorable Martial Alliance. The identity of the Honorable Martial Clan elder was extremely honorable, but Qi Yuing did not lose his ambition, and went deep into the savage lands of Heaven's Road alone, and did not return for many years. If all the aristocratic families and merchant organizations were to gather together, it would definitely be an astonishing power. This idea was impossible to achieve normally, but at such a special time, the stable power and order of the various families had already been disrupted, so it was not impossible. Everyone needed to huddle together for warmth, if not, they would not be able to survive the winter. The Honorable Martial Alliance that was trying to rope in all sorts of allies was hitting walls everywhere. Impossible. Crane exclaimed out loud. Honorable Martial Alliance, Qi family. After a while, Tang Tian reacted, his eyes opened wide and he jumped up. Wah! Ling Su, you've become stronger. Orion Constellation was one of the overlords of the 10 Equatorial Palace Halls. Its power was something that even the Honorable Martial Alliance did not dare to look down on. Don't tell me you're already at the 9th level. Ling Su had a face of suspicion, but very quickly he was shocked by his own guess. Orion Constellation is truly seeking death. Qi Meng was tall and big, his skin was dark and his entire body was as tough as steel. His voice was like thunder, his face was filled with anger and his appearance was terrifying. The Qi family disciples were mostly handsome men and beautiful women, but for Qi Meng to be so crude and ugly, it was extremely different. He had been bullied since young and his temperament was irritable and perverse, and the only person he respected was Qi Yuang. Qi Meng became anxious. Second brother, it has already come to this, what are you thinking about? A dogshit Andromeda constellation dares to declare war on us, and a dogshit Orion constellation dares to point fingers at us. If we do not retaliate, we will lose all our face. When Big Brother returns, how do I explain to him? Qi Yuntai sighed, his heart was filled with bitterness. But Tang Tian was at a loss. Crane's face was filled with helplessness. Why is this guy always so slow to react? He reminded him, quickly look at how much you have. The current leader of the Qi family was Qi Yuang's younger brother, Qi Yuntai. Qi Yuntai was a steady person and out of the 3 Qi brothers his strength was the weakest, but the way he handled matters was outstanding and all of the Qi family's matters were taken care of by him. Ling Su and Crane were still meditating, but their Qi had already calmed down. Tang Tian sat down and looked at the two of them, suddenly feeling envious. He did not have any friends and had never known what a friend was. That stupid fellow actually had such a group of good friends which he could not understand. Of course we will just watch. Qi Yuntai said leisurely. In other people's eyes, Andromeda constellation is the victim. But in the martial group, our Qi family is the victim. No matter what happens to Andromeda constellation with Shan gone, no one has such a loss. Shan is still working for the martial group. Since the higher-ups want to fight, that means that Shan did the right thing and will definitely compensate our Qi family. How do we manage it? Changed. Crane and Ling Su were startled. But following the continuous disclosure of the inside story, Heaven's Road was in an uproar. Qi Yuntai's face turned green. Qiu Shan was the most outstanding disciple of the Qi family's younger generation, and was placed with high hopes, but who knew that he would meet with misfortune in Andromeda constellation. They did not care about what happened to Andromeda constellation, even 10 Andromeda constellations could not compare to Qiu Shan. He quietly returned to the Seasons Fields waterway. Qi Yuntai's face did not change. Counterattack? Do we need to counterattack? Qiu Shan had never even seen him before. Just as everyone was filled with worry for Andromeda constellation, suddenly Orion constellation of the 10 Equatorial Palace Halls announced that if the Honorable Martial Alliance attacked Andromeda constellation, then Orion constellation would support Andromeda constellation and declare war against the Honorable Martial Alliance. Tang Tian immediately checked the true power in his body and after a while his expression became weird. Chapter 370. Success. Bang bang bang. Crane gasped for breath as he jumped out of the battle ring, and directly entered his body to recover. Tang Tian, who had not had enough, looked at Ling Su. Both of them fought faster and faster. The two of them stepped on each other to vent their anger and were satisfied. They looked at each other and without hesitation they turned around and walked to a place not far away and started to meditate again. The 5 balls of sparks that shot straight at him were actually revolving at high speeds, and the accumulated power almost caused Ling Su to lose. He suddenly had a daring idea, and when the idea popped out, it made him even more excited. Left, right. He did not feel anything and was sleeping soundly. Tang Tian did not have time to sigh, his right arm trembled, and the 5 true power threads suddenly separated and rushed to his 5 fingertips. Then let's try it. Ling Su retreated 3 steps, but Tang Tian's body only shook. Ling Su's true power drilled into his meridians, but his meridians were too wide and did not cause much harm to him. The true power threads in his body were like a school of fish, quickly killing each other, and in the blink of an eye the thread of true power was destroyed. His last thought was clear and he was satisfied. Suddenly his body softened and fell down. Tang Tian was also stunned by the explosion. He raised his head in a daze and looked at the two of them. Ling Su coughed lightly. That's enough, we have more important matters to attend to. He had just gotten used to Tang Tian's attacks, and in the blink of an eye, the sword auras that he released were like hitting a high-speed revolving sand plate and bounced off. He was dumbstruck, and a few of the sword auras were bounced back to him, causing him to be flustered. The excited Tang Tian's 6 senses were extremely sharp. You're simply a bastard among bastards. I'll step on you. Ling Su scolded. The faces of the 2 people who rushed to his side became extremely ugly. The pitiful Ling Su had become Tang Tian's test subject, and the endless weird techniques made him exhausted. A perverted young man's perverted move. Little Crane, you must be very excited. Balls of light flew out from Tang Tian's fingertips and landed on the ground, creating large craters. Ling Su relaxed and panted heavily. Suddenly his body stiffened. Wait, why was he panting? Ling Su opened his eyes wide, his face filled with disbelief. How long had it been? With his physical strength, how could he be so tired that he was panting? Little Su, pay attention to the left. This technique was similar to the stick-on attack in the joint technique. This discovery made Tang Tian even more excited. For hand-to-hand combat experts, sticking close was an extremely practical technique because it could effectively shorten the distance between the 2 sides. Ling Su was shocked. What kind of strange move was this? He did not dare to be careless. The spear in his hand changed from offense to defense. The dense pointed sea spears blocked in front of him. Tang Tian's state of mind was shaken, but he quickly regained his clarity. His 5 fingers were like hooks, and the fire scythe ghost claw blossomed with light aura. It was too fast. Tang Tian had time to raise his palm. With such a good opportunity, Ling Su naturally would not let go of the chance to hit him when he was down. His attack was thwarted again. Ling Su was enraged. He whistled, and Tang Tian's eyes were instantly occupied by the pointed sea spears. The true power threads that were hibernating in his dantian suddenly disappeared. Almost at the same time, they appeared in the meridians of Tang Tian's palms. 5 crisp and clear sounds of collisions merged into one. Ling Su's pupils suddenly widened. His body was like a sieve trembling violently. The bricks under his feet shattered and dust flew everywhere. Some of the uses of the spiraling energy were slowly grasped by him. If it was for destruction, the speed of the true power thread's impact and the speed of the spiraling had to be fast. But it could not be too fast. If it was too fast, it would fly out like before. What should I call it? Burrowing mouse? No, Ghost King burrowing mouse? Let's call it Ghost Kinging. The excited Tang Tian's thoughts were much more flexible than usual. He thought of the video that Bell had bought. There was a close-quarters combat expert who could borrow strength from the opponent's attack. The oppressive sound came out. 5 balls of sparks shot out from Tang Tian's 5 fingers. The concentrated explosions mixed with the sky full of broken auras. The figures of both parties became blurry. The fist and the spear tip collided again. The pitiful Tang Tian's face was filled with shoe prints. He took a deep breath and suddenly punched out. The fingertip-sized sparks drilled deep into the ground and suddenly exploded. A perverted young man is indeed a pervert. Before the 2 of them could rush to his side, Tang Tian's snoring sounds came out. He had fallen asleep. After fighting with the 2 of them for so long, his physical strength was completely exhausted. But he was in a state of excitement and did not feel anything. When he retreated from the state of excitement, exhaustion drowned him like a tide, and he immediately fell asleep. Tang Tian did not care who came, he was in high spirits. The changes in his dantian and meridians made him feel as though he had suddenly discovered a vast sky, allowing him to toss and turn. Such a dangerous action, please don't do it again. Crane said righteously. It was truly different. Right, there's an opening on the right. So fast. The sparks were as fast as lightning, and in the blink of an eye, they were in front of him. That's right, such an irresponsible person. Punishment is necessary. Crane's face was righteous, his kicks were fierce and accurate. Thinking about it, Tang Tian started to try it out. Tang Tian was deep in thought. Without thinking, he took another step forward and punched out. Crane, who was watching from the side, was moved and did not decline. Good. Crane watched from the side with relish and occasionally sighed. An extremely loud sound came out, and the air in front of Tang Tian's fist suddenly exploded. The high-speed rotating sharp chi accurately struck the spear tip, causing the sky full of spears to disappear. Ling Su only felt the area between his thumb and forefinger heating up, and the silver spear almost flew out of his hands. Hey you guys! Be careful of your feet, this move is a bit fierce. Bang! With sufficient true power, Tang Tian was able to freely activate the fire scythe ghost claw. Even the sparks that blossomed from his fingertips could be controlled freely. As fast as lightning, ding ding ding, every claw was ready to clash with the spear tip. Crane did not know what to say. The two of them who were pretending to be meditating had cold sweat on their foreheads. The two of them had the same thought. Luckily they did not waste time with him, he actually had a new weird move. The dantian and meridians in his body had changed beyond recognition, causing Tang Tian to be dumbstruck. He thought back, at that time he felt like he was about to explode, and he somewhat understood. Finished, not allowing Tang Tian to object, he also sat cross-legged and meditated. But, to a close-quarters combat expert, once the distance was closed it would mean victory. He suddenly turned his face and looked at Tang Tian, who was shouting, his heart shivering. Bang! Idiot, idiot, are you trying to bury us alive? Ling Su scolded. Ling Su's competitive spirit was aroused. He calmed his mind, turned complicated into simple, and thrusted his spear out. Ling Su, who was already flustered, was angered to the point of vomiting blood by Crane's size. He jumped out of the battle circle and stared at Crane. It's your turn. On the contrary, the 5 fingers spewing out sparks was not that useful. Although the sparks that were spewed out were fast, but the power was too weak. Suddenly, Tang Tian thought about the Demon King Blazing Firefly. The two techniques were somewhat similar. Who knew if they could be fused? Ling Su and Crane were shocked. The two of them rushed towards Tang Tian at the same time. That's right, his arithmetic is so bad, it must be because he did not use his fingers to calculate the dantian pool. That's right, he did not have fingers at that time. Ling Su said seriously. 2 feet stepped on Tang Tian's face at the same time. That was a beautiful move. Suddenly light and suddenly heavy, suddenly fast and suddenly slow. Ling Su, who was caught off guard, immediately became flustered. Bang! The two of them who were pretending were like cats that had their tails stepped on, and jumped up at the same time. He definitely calculated the number of dantian pools wrongly. Crane's face was calm and did not lower his feet at all. The power of the fire scythe ghost claw also increased greatly. Although his preparation was not sufficient, but a casual punch had such power, causing Ling Su to be surprised. His heart trembled, such a huge power. Crane's pressure suddenly increased. Tang Tian's palms were like 2 big drills, and his 10 fingers were like 10 small drills. To achieve such an effect he needed at least 12 true power threads, and the speed of rotation could not be too fast. Let me try. Ling Su, who could not hold back, jumped out, thrusting his spear towards Tang Tian. This asshole. Tang Tian shouted unhappily, but seeing that the two of them did not have any intention of moving, he could only give up. His mind was filled with spiraling energy, and the changes of the spiraling energy made him extremely fascinated. For example, the glue word arts and the bullet word arts. The two had completely different effects, but the difference in the level of true power was extremely minute. One was the difference in the speed of rotation, the other was the number of true power threads. Tang Tian's eyes were emitting an excited light aura. He was extremely excited. The true power in his body surged, causing his entire body to be filled with power. What made him feel even more inconceivable was, every layer of dantian became extremely active, The true power was being transmitted wave after wave, causing him to feel strange. His fingertip released a ball of sparks. The sparks slowly landed on the ground. Upon touching the ground released a sizzling sound. In the blink of an eye, a deep hole was drilled out of the ground. The 5 true power threads returned to the Dantian pools. Following that, they went down and entered the lowest Dantian pool. Following that, the 5 true power threads flowed up layer by layer. Every layer they went up, their speed increased by a large margin, and when they reached the highest layer of Dantian pools, their speed was already so fast that Tang Tian had difficulty controlling it. Ling Su, who was in the midst of an intense battle, liked to clash head-on. It was his favorite fighting style. In terms of speed, he had never lost to anyone before. Just at this time, suddenly Tang Tian's fire scythe Ghost Claw had a new change. He decided to try it out. The sharp and mournful whistling sound was like the cry of an owl, the demonic sound piercing through the brain. How can such true power only be at the 7th level? Ling Su muttered as he stomped on the ground. Tang Tian welcomed the sky full of spears. He shot forward with his fists and spear tips clashing without any fancy moves. It was like a drill, let's call it the drill word arts. The whirlpool had another effect, and that was the suction force. After exploding for half a day, Tang Tian finally had some results. Drill, stick, bullet, these 3 effects caused his attacking methods to immediately become more plentiful. Tang Tian was also shocked by the technique that he had created, but following that he became even more excited, as though he was injected with chicken blood. Are there any other techniques? There must be. If not for him being extremely excited at the moment and the increase in his control, the 5 true power threads would have immediately gone out of control. Tang Tian, who was excited, felt that the true power threads in his body were unspeakably obedient, and he could freely activate the true power threads. His heart moved. Maybe he could have more variations? Tang Tian could clearly feel a spiral fist aura like a cannonball drilling into the air. The power of the explosion this time was more intense than any of the previous ones. The earth quaked and the mountains swayed, causing the bricks on the top of the passageway to shake and fall. Chapter 371. Spirit Nucleus. 10 days later. Bing's gaze retracted from the lively students and returned the greeting. How was the effect? No matter where he was, there would always be people accompanying him. Bing nodded his head and asked, "How long do you think this group of people will need?" All of them? Crane looked at the endless passage and the corpses on the floor, perspiration forming on his forehead. So many, how do we fit them all? Ling Su silently mocked the 2 of them in his heart. Crane bent down and touched the dried blood stains and said, "They died for about 2 weeks. I have many silver Aquarius cabinets here." Tang Tian took out a bunch of silver Aquarius cabinets. In this endless waterway, not a single living thing could be seen. To an army, this was extremely scary. Our lesson's main content is to talk about the influence of the development of martial techniques on wars. Firstly, I need to clarify I am more proficient in ancient wars and am not deep into modern wars. If there are any mistakes, please do not hesitate to point them out. Then let us now take a look which periods did the development of martial techniques go through, and the characteristics of the martial techniques in each period as well as the influence they had on the wars at that time. The sky darkened. Looking at the 2 sleeping soundly, Tang Tian's eyes flashed a trace of warmth. This time was longer than what Bing had expected, but he did not object and threw out a question. If you were to choose a target for the Mo family, which constellation would you choose? Tang Tian propped up his swollen pig face that was full of footprints, his expression full of shock. It was extremely comical. Beside him, Ling Su and Crane's expression congealed. Their faces were full of caution. In the few hundred years that Season Queen's waterway was sealed, all the star spirit beasts that were nurtured were all captured by them. Not a single one was left. Fornax constellation? Bing was surprised. 8th-level star spirit beasts were relatively intelligent. Upon realizing that the enemy was extremely strong, they would scatter. His strength had a slight increase. The first possibility was that the opponent was extremely strong, and killing 8th or 9th level star spirit beasts was as easy as blowing off dust. Bing agreed to Tang Chao's suggestion. It was equivalent to a small-scale military general academy. If it was in the past, it would be unimaginable for a captain to become a teacher of the general academy. The quality of the silver Aquarius cabinet on Tang Tian's body was of high quality. Carrying it on his body, it was only 1/10 of its weight. Every silver Aquarius cabinet was equivalent to 10 over star spirit beasts. Crane had 11 silver Aquarius cabinets, while Ling Su had 13 silver Aquarius cabinets. Tang Chou was also silent for a moment before he said, "This subordinate understands their position in the future. This was what the Lord needed to consider. What I need to consider is to do my job well." Crane was startled and thought about it. The fact that the other party didn't take the soul core meant that the other party didn't care about money. The other party did not harm them, which meant that the other party did not have any hostility towards them. His thoughts were meticulous, and from the direction of the corpse he could deduce that the other party was also from Lupus constellation. A warrior prefers death to humiliation. The two of them exerted all their strength and persevered until the end. When they walked out of the channel, everyone's face was pale and they were on the verge of collapsing. Every one of them had a silver Aquarius cabinet hanging on their bodies. They looked extremely dazzling and sparkling. Wah wah wah. So many soul cores. There's one here. I have this too. They are all 8th level soul cores. So much money. Tang Chou blurted out, "Fornax constellation." Bing was outside the window quietly watching, but his heart was filled with emotions. Tang Chou and Feng Chou had changed greatly, but there was one thing that was inherited from the same origin, and that was seriousness. Very quickly the lesson ended and the students all left the classroom. They still had a large amount of training to do. Suddenly Tang Tian said seriously, "No, we cannot waste it." Crane and Ling Su could not laugh anymore. The silver Aquarius cabinet could hold many things and could greatly reduce the weight, but it was not without weight. The 3 silver Aquarius cabinets were all stuffed to the brim and were extremely heavy. Tang Tian was pleasantly surprised. A tyrannical body was the best weapon. Some of the experts in Onyx Soul had tempered their bodies to the extreme and were hard to be injured by blades and swords. They did not need light body techniques and were as fast as lightning. That was because of the terrifying explosive power of their muscles. Spirit nuclei can be sold for money. The entire body of a star spirit beast is a treasure. With so many corpses, how much money would that be? Tang Tian said seriously. But he did not sleep in this unfamiliar environment. He needed someone to be on guard. He sat cross-legged and slowly revolved his true power. "Yes." Tang Chou replied solemnly. "Cough cough cough. Wrong. At this time my attention should be placed on the mysterious expert and not be distracted by these 2 idiots." Bing's eyes flashed, and after thinking for a while he said, "You make a plan first." There were only 2 possibilities for such a spectacular scene. As expected, one should not be afraid of a godlike opponent, but afraid of a pig-like teammate. To do bad things with a person like Ling Su, this kind of thing had to be carefully considered in the future. Crane blushed with shame. "Then what do we do?" Crane's face congealed. No matter which possibility, it was extremely terrifying. Killing 8th and 9th level star spirit beasts like picking up grass. That person's power was so high, the 3 of them were definitely not his opponent. And if he was cruel and bloodthirsty, such a lunatic, no one was willing to provoke him. Who knew that the void dark flames and ice blue heart actually had such a miraculous use? In front of them the corpses of the star spirit beasts could not be seen. I wonder how Uncle Bing and the rest are doing. Tang Tian was also extremely tired. 32 silver Aquarius cabinet was equivalent to 300 over corpses of star spirit beasts. Piling them up was like a mountain of meat. Even with his innate divine strength he could not take it. After 2 hours he opened his eyes, a look of joy flashing past his eyes. The 10 days of hard work was not in vain. His flesh was tempered even more thoroughly. The void dark flames and ice blue heart, one hot and one cold. Under the alternating tempering, his flesh became even tougher, like a piece of extremely tough steel wire. Upon walking out of the cave, Ling Su and Crane could no longer endure it. They threw the silver Aquarius cabinet to the side, fell to the ground and very quickly entered dreamland. Even Crane, who was always meticulous, could not care about being elegant or calm. Ling Su and Crane were already so tired that they were about to collapse. The 2 of them did not specialize in physical strength. Crane trained in noble sword techniques. When had he ever done hard labor? Ling Su's spear techniques were sharp, but he relied on the strength of his fingers. With such a tyrannical body, Tang Tian did not have any extravagant hopes, but a strong body to a close-quarters combat expert was extremely beneficial. "Yes, master." Tang Chao's eyes flashed with an astonishing light aura. "That place has a solid foundation of forging and many martial spirit fragments. It is extremely suitable for mechanical spirit weapons like us. If we can occupy that place, we can quickly expand. Also, their local strength is not strong. But the two of them were too embarrassed to complain, because Tang Tian had a total of 32 silver Aquarius cabinet on him, more than the two of them added together. The two of them were proud and arrogant people. How could they admit defeat? They could only clench their teeth and endure it, but Tang Tian always felt that the two of them were crawling like turtles, and would occasionally mock and ridicule a Maori. That bastard was here, he could take everything by himself, and so on. Crane coughed lightly and righteously diverted Tang Tian's attention. Hey, you guys are going in the wrong direction. The main question is, who is the opponent? When did he enter the passage? What is his goal? These lessons were not arranged by Bing, but by Tang Cho himself, and his reason was sufficient. The era had been peaceful for too long. These students might not be lacking in terms of individual strength, but their understanding of war was a blank slate. Every silver Aquarius cabinet was stuffed with over 100 star spirit beast corpses. From the looks of it, it is not bad. But in terms of actual results, it needs to be tested in actual battles. Tang Cho said cautiously. But Bing felt that Tang Cho was doing well. Tang Chao's character was neither rushed nor slow, but he was meticulous and serious, and was smarter than Tang Yi. But it was good that the opponent did not have any enmity towards them, if not they would have died long ago. Ling Su could not hold it in anymore. He held onto his stomach and ran to the side, laughing out loud. The other two looked at him at the same time, not understanding. It was equivalent to the two of them dragging over 100 star spirit beast corpses for the past 10 days. How could the two of them not collapse? On the platform, Tang Cho was teaching in an orderly manner, and the students below the platform were listening attentively. They did not look down on their teacher just because he was a spirit military leader. The continuous lessons made them admire this spirit military leader teacher who had a good temper. The only thing that made them feel at ease was that the crazy young man and Ling Su were on the same level. Crane was about to think seriously, but his thoughts were interrupted by Tang Tian's cheers. Who did it? Ling Su could not help but ask. His gaze swept across the floor full of star spirit beast corpses, and felt a chill down his spine. It takes about half a year to form a basic fighting strength. Tang Cho said conservatively. That's right. Trying to slip past this godlike young man, that's just wishful thinking. Tang Tian raised his head, his face full of joy. With just you. Ling Su's face was filled with contempt. Seeing Tang Tian's pig head, his heart felt extremely comfortable. Especially when Tang Tian did not realize it, he almost burst out laughing a few times. Speaking of that, he had to admire Crane, that gloomy fellow. He did not reveal any of his emotions. He was calm and collected. I have to be careful in the future. This little person looks dignified, but his stomach is full of evil tricks. Even his heart might be black. These silver Aquarius cabinet were the spoils of war from the past battles, and their quality were all outstanding. He took them out one by one and piled them up into a small hill. Bing was quiet for a moment and said, "They are not our core army, you don't need to do so much." Tang Tian made a sweeping gesture towards his bosom. "Put them all in." When the two of them saw the light coming in from the hole, they almost cried tears of joy. Crane calmed down. Tang Cho saw Bing and immediately bowed. "Pastor. 2 weeks ago?" Tang Tian counted with his fingers, silently calculating for a moment, and exclaimed, We were meditating at that time. No wonder we did not feel anything. If I was awake, I would definitely be able to catch him." The second possibility was that the opponent was cruel and bloodthirsty. Once he started fighting, he would habitually kill all living things. Chapter 372. What a fast sword. A blonde-haired young man exclaimed. He was handsome with a head of dazzling golden hair. It was extremely eye-catching. His physique was sturdy and strong. His facial contours were deep eyes and a high nose, brimming with confidence, brimming with a sense of oppression. Tang Tian shouted excitedly, causing Crane, who was filled with sorrow, to raise his perspiring face. He was startled. "Not curious." Crane replied coldly, wiping his perspiration, his footsteps becoming heavier. "Thank you." Crane immediately thanked him. To the martial group, the way they handled this matter, they had to display the tyranny of the #1 overlord under the heavens. Gui Xiang's heart was secretly cold. The opponent's sword was extremely light. It was extremely experienced. "We will see." The middle-aged man said indifferently. "I thought that coming here would be boring, but I never thought that it would be interesting." The blonde-haired young man laughed. If the other two's strength is also at this level, then it will be interesting. Kill them. Gui Xiang's face darkened, his heart sneering, such a big tone, it was just a bluff. And, in the crowd there were a few of his companions, just the three of them wanted to kill him? Stop dreaming. Before his voice died away, his figure disappeared into thin air. Andromeda constellation was rather influential in northern sky's 19 continents, and the Honorable Martial Alliance had a specialized person stationed there, Lu Rong. But he was just a fringe character and did not have any background. He originally wanted to rely on Zhou Xian, but his strength was average and Zhou Xian did not look up to him. What happened next caused him to be dumbstruck, but it also allowed him to see an opportunity. In the crowd, Lu Rong's entire body turned cold, as though he had fallen into an ice cellar. He did not even see how the opponent unleashed his sword. In such a situation, there was only one possibility: the opponent's strength far exceeded his. Gui Xiang sneered in his heart. Naturally there would be stronger people to deal with him. He carefully observed for a moment, then suddenly smacked his forehead. I remember, they are the three fellows from Lupus constellation. No wonder I felt that they looked familiar. Why are they here? Didn't the Yi family seal Lupus constellation? Don't tell me there's a star door that leads here? The middle-aged man's eyes lit up. Su Fan's face was ashen, the opponent's palm was imprinted on his chest, and the life in his body was quickly being extinguished. However, his heart was filled with grief and indignation. He pointed at the other party, his voice trembling. Gui Xiang's strength was very outstanding and he was also very ambitious. As expected, he only needed to tempt him a little and Gui Xiang couldn't wait to join him. Su Fan was startled, then became ecstatic. Could it be that an expert from Orion constellation or Leo constellation had arrived? So pitiful. Crane said insincerely, then said, "Let's hurry up and enter the city." Two fingers moved as fast as lightning, aiming straight for Su Fan's eyes. His voice stopped abruptly. His head was lifted up by a pillar of blood and rolled to the side. His body fell to the ground like a wooden stake. The moment they stepped into the city gates, Crane and Ling Su almost had tears streaming down their faces. On the way, Tang Tian asked in confusion, "Aren't you curious? You were blown up like that. Weren't all the experts of Andromeda constellation annihilated?" Ding. Lu Rong was cautious by nature, so he brought everyone to the Merchant Alliance's headquarters to investigate. Crane stopped a passerby and asked politely, "May I ask, where is the biggest trading organization here?" "The biggest trading organization?" The passerby said without hesitation. "Of course it's the Andromeda Commerce Alliance. Follow this road and walk forward. Turn left at the end, it's the first shop." Could it be someone from Leo constellation? Crane, Gui Xiang did not expect someone to kill him in the middle of the road. Borrowing the force, his body turned in the air and returned to his original position. "This person looks familiar, I think I've seen him somewhere before." The middle-aged man frowned, revealing a pondering expression. Crane listened to the two of them quarrel helplessly, wiped his sweat and looked at Ling Su with sympathy. "He is a wild beast, he can easily drink 32 bottles and is still full of energy to quarrel with you. That is just a form of entertainment for his mind. You are tired like a dog and are still wasting your precious energy on quarreling, what's the point?" The true power in Su Fan's body was in a mess. His life was extinguished and he was powerless to resist. The sound of metal clashing suddenly came out. Su Fan quivered and immediately opened his eyes. A sword image flashed past his vision. The golden-haired young man was startled. Could it be someone I know? The two of them looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. Lu Rong started to plan. His strength was average and he did not have any capable subordinates, so he could only place his thoughts on martial artists outside the group, and Gui Xiang was one of them. Leo constellation? That was too fast. Lu Rong was so scared that he did not dare to move. He had spent a lot of effort to find this path, and the other party also heard that he was familiar with Andromeda constellation, and thus made an exception to give him the chance. As for the powerful experts, no way. Crane and Ling Su, who wanted to be free immediately, said at the same time, determined as steel. "What's the fun in living like this? Are you not curious about the world at all? I understand, no wonder you guys can't become godlike young men, you guys are not curious about the world." Tang Tian chattered on. Gui Xiang was expressionless. "Su Air, do you still not understand the situation? Andromeda constellation will be destroyed very quickly. Angelina is crazy, she wants to drag the entire Andromeda constellation down with her. I will give you a chance if you pledge allegiance to Master. He had stayed in the martial group for a long time and was very familiar with the way the martial group did things. Ling Su reacted but did not say a word. But it seemed that he was not much better off. It was fine if his body was being destroyed, but his mental state was being destroyed by the two of them. Although Lupus constellation was sealed, but to Leo constellation it was not a problem. Let's continue walking forward, there will definitely be people. A pity we did not see Angelina. The golden-haired young man was regretful. I really want to see how this woman will handle the situation. Ling Su's head was like a chicken pecking at rice, nodding his head continuously. May I know who you are? No one saw the sword clearly. Chia had said before, to treat the enemy as ruthless as the autumn wind sweeping the fallen leaves. He is from the Honorable Martial Alliance. Crane acted as though he did not hear Gui Xiang's words, and turned to look at Tang Tian and Ling Su. Life was so difficult, Crane's heart was filled with tears. Gui Xiang's face did not change, but he was happy in his heart. The higher-ups had already promised if they completed the mission perfectly, they could enter the martial group and fight for the martial group. The battle between the Honorable Martial Alliance and Leo Constellation had begun, and they definitely did not lack opportunities. If they were able to enter the martial group and gain some merits, then they would definitely soar in the future. Any star door was extremely valuable, and an unknown rising star door was even more valuable. Especially in a state of war, a rising star door that the enemy did not know about could possibly change the outcome of the war. Suddenly, a cold light flashed in front of him. There is a bit of the concept of wind. The middle-aged man beside him glanced at him, his expression calm. The maturity is still too shallow, but at this age it is still rare. Bullshit. Su Fan's heart was in pain, he trembled. Gui Lao San, the old master treated you well in the past, you wanted to go to Draco Constellation, the old master did not stop you and even gave you travel expenses. Now that the old master's corpse is not even cold, you actually helped the enemy to kill your way here, I must be blind. Not good. Gui Xiang's face changed, he did not have time to react and only felt a cold sensation on his neck. Following that, a pillar of blood appeared in his vision. He immediately reacted and screamed, "No!" A look of shame flashed past Gui Xiang's eyes, but immediately after his face became even more gloomy and said indifferently, "If the old master was here, why would he let you guys follow a little girl who does not know the immensity of heaven and earth? Su Fan, your eyes are truly blind. Since there is no use in keeping it, then I will help you take it." Expert. When the three of them rushed to the Fairy Commerce Alliance, they discovered that the entrance of the Fairy Commerce Alliance was completely surrounded. Sounds of intense fighting came out from inside. Bang bang bang, in the blink of an eye, a few people were thrown out of the shop, their faces covered in blood. How is that possible? Seeing the person who attacked, Su Fan was even more certain. Such a young and powerful martial artist could only be nurtured by Orion Constellation and Leo Constellation. Kill him. Tang Tian said as a matter of fact, the Honorable Martial Alliance, that was everyone's current enemy. Lu Rong's entire body trembled, his companions looked at him, their eyes filled with fear. He forced himself to calm down and shook his head slightly. The situation had changed, the opponent's strength had already exceeded the limits of what he could handle. On a tall building not far away, two people were discussing. Why? Such a huge crater, what kind of powerful explosion to be able to cause such a huge crater? It is truly too shocking. Tang Tian's face was full of surprise. In front. Quickly look. Honorable Martial Alliance. The crowd immediately went into an uproar. All of their faces were filled with anger. But Gui Xiang's display of strength caused the spectators to be angry, but they did not dare to say anything. This is so infuriating. Luckily, Gui Lao San, I never thought that you would actually become an Honorable Martial Alliance lackey. Ling Su's crazy laughter came out. Ha! We are saved. What is human hair? Hair. Crane pretended not to hear, he wanted to conserve his energy. I'm hungry, let's eat first. Tang Tian was drooling. This city seems to have been bombed. Tang Tian pointed to the scorched black part of the city. Look over there. He did not expect to meet such a powerful martial artist. The experts of Andromeda Constellation were almost completely annihilated. Angelina had consolidated close to 70% of the businesses in Andromeda City to form the Andromeda Commerce Alliance, and had fallen into a situation where there were no experts holding down the fort. In the past, Zhou Xian was not considered a true martial artist in Andromeda City, but now from the headquarters of the Commerce Alliance he was in dire straits. Ling Su, sigh. In the distance a city appeared in front of them. The benefits and treatment of the Honorable Martial Alliance were first class in Heaven's Road, but the conditions to enter were extremely harsh. Compared to the Honorable Martial Alliance, Leo Constellation was like a poor beggar, they had nothing. To Guixiang it was a battle without any suspense, and the Honorable Martial Alliance would definitely win. Do you want me to go? Ling Su was eager to try. Shut up. Idiot. We have already walked for 7 hours, and we have not even seen a single strand of human hair. Chapter 373. Crane took a deep breath. Our energy beasts are more than what everyone can imagine. But can I first ask a question? Upon entering, the old lady was attracted by the energy beast corpses placed in the freezer. She shot forward and said excitedly, "Energy beasts. They truly are energy beasts." She turned and gave a few orders, and in the next moment, a waiter holding a tray and an old man came to the three of them. "Please speak." Master Li forced himself to calm down. Angelina immediately said, "This is the resource we urgently need. We are willing to buy it for 30 million star coins." Angelina felt that it was not necessary. She turned her head and asked Tang Tian and the other two, "I wonder how much this energy beast will sell for?" Madame Yu's spirit was roused. "Master, this energy beast's fur can definitely be made into a soft armor. The leftover scraps can be made into a pair of boots. It will definitely not be a problem. If it was only that, then it would definitely make people sigh in admiration." But the three of them had silver Aquarius cabinets hanging all over their bodies. It looked extremely weird. "One spear to death," Ling Su said coldly. Madame Yu immediately fainted. Angelina was slightly better. She held onto her chest with all her might, as though her heart was about to jump out. "I am the bloody scythe in his hand." Qiu Zhijun laughed in his heart. He nodded his head. "Not a bad time." Crane bowed slightly. "You are too polite." "Oh my god, why is my heart beating so fast?" Master Li's throat was dry. He carefully extended out 2 fingers and said with difficulty, 20? Crane said, "We do not know anything about these. Please just name a price. I believe you will not cheat us." "Don't worry about it." Angelina smiled. "Seeing you guys so engrossed, I think you guys already have a plan." Sometimes he always felt that his junior brother was a demon. Angelina immediately said, "No problem." 8th level star rocks. The three of them were shocked. Energy beasts? Tang Tian and Ling Su were startled by the unfamiliar name. Many. Crane's heart was beating fast. He did not expect the energy beast to be so valuable. Thinking about the silver Aquarius cabinet hanging on everyone's body, even Crane, who viewed money as dirt, felt a burst of heat. Crane reacted and waved his hand. 15 million is enough. Angelina thought for a while and said sincerely, 38th level star rocks to me is not much. The three of you have helped me resolve a crisis and redeemed my losses, far exceeding 60 million star coins. I don't know how to repay the three of you. If I fail this time, these riches will not belong to me. If I succeed, what 60 million? Please accept it. Qiu Zhijun did not care about him and continued. The first and second branches have agreed to hand over the authority. The few clan elders also think that the current situation is unstable, and the Sima family needs an even more outstanding patriarch to handle the complicated situation. Could there be 100 of them? Master Li began to tremble. Crane took out a star spirit beast corpse. We want to take a look. This type of star spirit beast corpse, do you guys buy it? Angelina did not have much choice. The reinforcements from Leo constellation and Orion constellation had not arrived, and the current Andromeda constellation was defenseless. Father's Plateau army was also in trouble. They had just experienced a mutiny, and the traitor had already confessed. The mastermind was the Honorable Martial Alliance's people. The mutiny caused the army to suffer huge losses. The army had to stop and stabilize the situation. Master? Crane's eyes flashed a strange look. In any constellation, there was only one person who was worthy of the two words, and that was the constellation master of the constellation. A voice interrupted her. Madame Yu raised her head angrily, and when she saw the person who spoke, she jumped in fright. Master, please forgive me. Tang Tian was furious. This honorable martial alliance is not a thing. Don't tell me there are 50 of them. Master Li's voice trembled. Madame Yu subconsciously tightened her grip on her skirt. Angelina's hands covered her voluptuous chest. One silver Aquarius cabinet had over 100 of them, one for 15 million star coins. I have 13 silver Aquarius cabinet. Help. I don't have enough fingers, I can't count. What a pity I can't join in. Sima Zhao's face was filled with regret as he stuffed a piece into his mouth. Ignoring the crumbs all over his body, he mumbled, "Hey, can you understand my pain? These people are already fighting and fighting so happily, but I am still here wasting time with these old and young masters. Oh my god, why is it so hard to do something?" Angelina then sized up the three of them seriously and her eyes lit up. The three of them had different temperaments and each had their own specialties. Crane was dressed in black. He was cultured and refined, giving off a refined feeling, causing people to feel extremely close to him. Ling Su was dressed in a snow-white robe, his gaze sharp and his heroic spirit threatening. Out of the three, Tang Tian looked the most ordinary. He looked around curiously. Seeing that Angelina was about to speak, he spoke first. "How many do you need?" Tang Tian and Ling Su immediately turned their heads and stared straight at Crane. Before they arrived, the old lady's sharp voice came out. "Someone caught the energy beasts? Where is it? Where is it?" Upon entering, Angelina saw the three of them and without hesitation, bowed and thanked them. "Thank you three for lending a hand. Angelina is extremely grateful." Ordinary chambers of commerce wouldn't sell tier 8 star stones. They were simply too expensive. 7th level star rocks cost 500,000 star coins each, and for 8th level star rocks, the price would rise to 2 million star coins each. 15 million star coins. Then let it be soaked in blood. Nonsense. The old lady looked at him. If there is an energy beast, how can this old lady not come? Come, let me see. Good, very good, it is old enough. This piece of skin can definitely be made into a soft armor and can even be made into boots. Crane pointed to the energy beast and asked, "Why is it worth 15 million star coins?" In the hall, everyone sucked in cold air in unison. The old man who had just arrived saw the corpse of the star spirit beast in Crane's hands, and blurted out, "Energy beasts. Yes, we have already declared war on the Honorable Martial Alliance." Angelina did not hide anything and told them everything that had happened recently. Sima Zhao smiled. He stood up in satisfaction and clapped his hands. "Finally, I heard a piece of good news." "Yes. Madame Yu, how is it?" Angelina stood up and bowed to the three of them with a solemn expression. Angelina looked at the old man who spoke without hesitation. "This energy beast quality is extremely outstanding. Its market price is around 15 million star coins." "Yes." Angelina's face revealed a look of joy. Everyone present could not help but reveal a look of joy. Master Li was the master in charge of the Merchant Alliance, and was well versed in the market price. 10. Master Li licked his lips. Crane was shocked. "These are energy beasts?" "Yes." The three of them nodded their heads. "This is just a small token of my appreciation. I hope that the three esteemed guests will not reject it." Tang Tian and Ling Su tactfully kept quiet. After a while, another old lady in a brown leather apron hurried over. "How many do you have?" Master Li was the first to react. He felt that his throat was dry. "Ah, stupid granny, you're here too." The old man laughed. Was there anyone more powerful than him in the world? "Did you offend the Honorable Martial Alliance?" Tang Tian asked curiously. Angelina's gaze also turned to Crane. Upon hearing that, Angelina, who was about to speak, opened her mouth in shock, but no sound came out. Master Li and Madame Yu looked at the three of them in shock. "We appreciate your kind intentions, but these 8th level star rocks are truly too precious. It's nothing much, please do not worry about it." Crane's tone was gentle, but the gentle words revealed a sense of determination, causing Angelina to be surprised. The three of them were shocked. Even Crane, who was always calm, could not help but open his mouth wide. Ling Su, who was half dead from exhaustion in that moment, all his fatigue seemed to have disappeared without a trace. But now she knew that she had to hold on no matter what method she had to use. She caressed the smooth and cold fur of the energy beast in satisfaction. The faint energy undulation made her feel extremely comfortable. Qiu Jun did not say anything. Quick, quick, quick. Quickly go get the freezer box. How can you waste the energy beasts like this? The old man ordered his subordinates to get the freezer box while grumbling. He very consciously took responsibility for this kind of situation. Crane declined to comment. His mind was much more powerful than the other two. He did not comment and smiled. We did not expect to meet with such a thing. The main reason we are here is to get rid of some things on our bodies. Crane explained, I have only read about it in books. Energy beasts are a very special type of star spirit beasts. They are bred in places with extremely dense energy. Their bodies are extremely close to pure energy and have a wide range of uses. That is all I know. Angelina and the rest could not suppress the ecstasy on their faces. Then I will accept it. Tang Tian beamed with joy as he swept the 8th level star rocks into his bosom. There were a total of 38th level star rocks in the tray, which was equivalent to 60 million star coins. When the tray's lid was opened, a small pile of sparkling star rocks appeared in front of the three of them. The dense energy undulation immediately flooded the entire hull. The three of them who were in a row nodded their heads at the same time, their movements in unison. Yes. The three of them nodded their heads. He knew that Angelina wanted to use this method to thank them, but they did not like to take advantage of others. Angelina shook her head. If not for the three of you, my commerce alliance would have to close its doors today. The joking and unruly face suddenly became sharp. Even the smile at the corner of his mouth became as sharp as a knife. Then the plan that we have prepared can begin to be implemented. Angelina suddenly missed her mysterious master. If he was here, she would not need to worry about her safety. Not only safety, she did not need to worry about anything as long as she listened to his orders. Seeing that Angelina said so, Crane did not persist. Ling Su was completely indifferent.